start the process for the swearing in of our new chief of police, Dusty McKenna. Rusty. I'm going to make that mistake again, but
Sounds like Garrison Keeler.
Cornelius McKenna,
a citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state of Florida
and the United States of America,
and the United States of America,
and being employed as chief of police
and being employed as chief of police
for the village of Biscayne Park
for the village of Biscayne Park
and recipient of public funds,
and recipient of public funds,
do solemnly
do solemnly swear
swear that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
and the charter and all ordinances
and the charter and all ordinances
of the village of Biscayne Park,
of the village of Biscayne Park,
and that in all respects
and in all respects
I will faithfully discharge my duties
I will faithfully discharge my duties
as a member of the village of Biscayne Park Police Department.
as a member of the village of Biscayne Park Police Department.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to be very brief. I just wanted to say I'm very happy to be here. And for our residents, I'm somebody that you'll be able to contact without any problem. I have an open door policy. You don't have to have an appointment to come down to see me. You can just stop down. I recommend you call first. Just wanted to see if I'm out of coffee, but the other thing is to see if I'm in the station. But if I'm not, just send me an email, and I'm pretty good with emails. I should be able to answer you pretty promptly. I don't know if everybody has that email address, but we'll make sure we get that out to you. So I'm looking very forward to working here. Thank you so much.
Rusty, welcome. I just want to thank staff and Heidi in particular. She did an outstanding job. I think we have a winner, obviously, here, and Rusty. But she handled the process very well. It was open, transparent. I think the community participated. We all participated. So job well done. Thank you. All right. The second item is recognition of our interim chief. Chief Duncan.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. From all the other agencies, we really appreciate you showing up. Chief Foster, first and foremost, you can come up. On a personal level, he came to us at a time of need and truly guided us in the right direction. I can't thank him enough myself. I speak for all the officers as well when we say thank you for all you've done. We wish you the best in your next endeavor. We all got together and got you something. First, this is from the village. This is a plaque saying, presented to Duncan Foster in recognition of your service to the residents of the village of Biscayne Park as interim police chief 2014. From the residents and the officers, we thank you. From the officers, we got you a gift card. It only can be used at the Golf Trader. We know he's an avid golfer, so I couldn't get it placed from there, so we got it for you at the Golf Trader.
Thank you, guys. It's really been a pleasure to serve the residents here. The 90 days has gone by so quickly, but I'd like to think we really did make some positive, and I say we because I didn't do anything single-handedly. Matter of fact, I didn't do a whole heck of a lot. The officers really did everything. And it was truly a joy to come here and to lend a little bit of expertise to the village. And I have to say a couple of thank yous to Heidi, first of all, for giving me the opportunity. When I met Heidi, we clicked immediately, and I just knew she'd be a wonderful boss, and she certainly didn't disappoint. To all the officers, again, you welcomed me with open arms. I didn't know anybody here in Dade County. I was a Broward County guy all my life. And you guys really made me feel at home and really showed me the ropes. Everybody inside the village, Maria, Wendy, I saw Caesar running around. Again, there he is. Thank you so much again. The same thing in Milan. There's Raphael. Again, you made me feel just tremendously welcome. It's hard to come to a department not knowing anybody and realizing that you've got some serious challenges that are ahead of you. And again, everyone made me feel so welcome, and thank you for that. And finally, again, to the officers, I have a lot of confidence in the future of this department. Rusty, like the mayor had mentioned, we put a lot of effort into this search, and I know Rusty is going to do just a fantastic job for the village, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck. You know, moving from New York to South Florida is going to be a big transition, but if you get 1/10 the support that I had, you're going to do a fantastic job. So thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it.
Mayor, we have one last presentation. Throughout this process, as you indicated, it was a very open process, and I put a committee together, and that committee was at the generosity of several city managers around the county, including Tom Benton from Miami Shores. He allowed his chief to participate. Former manager here, Anna Garcia from now North Miami Beach, allowed her human resources director to participate. Ron Wasson from Bay Harbor Islands allowed himself, you participated, sorry, and I was getting ahead of myself there, and Chief Foster participated, as well as our own Crime Watch chairperson, Chuck Ross, also participated on the committee, and that committee was invaluable in helping me through that interview process and giving me feedback of that process. But Bay Harbor Islands went a little bit above and beyond that. In order to really vet out these candidates, we had to do the highest level of background checks that you would do on an individual, because we wanted to make sure the person we were bringing in would represent us well and also be a real positive force here in Biscayne Park. So I spoke to Manager Wasson in Bay Harbor Islands, and I spoke to Chief Hemingway, and they said absolutely anything you need, and they dedicated one of their high-ranking officers to doing background investigations, not just on Chief McKenna, but also on the other two candidates throughout the process. They were responsive. I might have an inside track to know that maybe some other work was put aside to complete our task, because I heard about it at home once. But we are very appreciative of that. So we have just a certificate of appreciation for Chief Hemingway.
Very, very nice.
Thank you.
All right, I think that concludes. So we'll reconvene at 7. There'll be refreshments outside. And I just want to say, to the extent that we need to make the headlines going forward, I think it's only going to be positive news in the newspaper. We're going to be starting construction of a new village hall. So there's a lot of exciting things happening, and we all look forward to it. Thank you. To get started, reconvene, or we're going to start the regular commission meeting for Tuesday, July 1st, 2014. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Coviello?
Here.
Vice Mayor Ross?
Here.
Commissioner Jonas?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
And Commissioner Anderson.
Here. All right, if everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone here. We have a distinguished guest of honor. Our representative, Daphne Campbell, is here to present some very good news. As most of you are aware, we received funding from the state in the amount of $1 million, due in large part to Daphne's efforts, and we're very happy to have her here.
Good evening, everyone. I said good evening. Oh my God.
You know, I'm so happy to be here this afternoon because before I start, let me say thank you to the mayor first and the commissioners for all the support and for being with me for 4 years. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Ross, I know she's shy, but she's going to come out and stand with me because we have to do this together. The reason being because since 2011, and Commissioner Ross been with me in Tallahassee voicing for this money. And I don't know if you remember, 2011 I was here when Governor Scott vetoed the 150,000, remember? And I said, we're going to double it. And she was there with me and with her own expense in Tallahassee for 3 days, going back and forth. We visited almost all the senators, but the only one who stood with us until we got this money is DLP, Senator Miguel de la Portilla. You know, they call him DLP. And he excused himself for tonight because he's out of town. And Commissioner Ross, come over, and then let's do this together. Let's give a hand to Commissioner Ross, please. Give her big hands for all her work. And we're going to ask the mayor to come down and come to receive that $1 million we get for the village. Hold on. We have to ask all the commissioners to come with us for the money as well. It's a big check, $1 million. Give her hands for that $1 million.
You two on this side? Oh, that's good. Okay, because I was worrying about the lights. Yeah. Everyone.
Oh, the city manager, Heidi, come. The village attorney, the assistant village, the clerk. All of you, come here. It's the effort of all of us, not one.
Maria, come on. How about our finance director? He's the one who has the copies on that.
Come on. We have to keep track of all those comments.
There we go. Very
Where's
nice.
Duncan? Come in, come on. Come on.
No.
Rusty.
Hey.
You're escorting her over to the
Very
bank.
good. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm not finished yet. This is the first step. The second step, I do have in Tallahassee, I filed a resolution for the village. When I went to my speaker and said, I want to file a resolution for the village because the village doing a lot of great work and that's their 81st anniversary, the speaker said, we don't do this. But I said, guess what? I have to change everything in Tallahassee and I'm going to file it. And truly we have it. I'm going to ask Heidi now to come and read it. You know, right, Heidi, I'm pulling you out of everything. And she's going to read the resolution for us, and you're going to hear it. We work together. We have to do everything together.
House resolution. A resolution recognizing the 81st anniversary of the village of Biscayne Park. Whereas in the early 1920s, Arthur Griffin began developing Biscayne Park estates and carefully planted the area with shrubs and trees to create the look and feel of a botanical garden. And whereas, hoping to attract young families, Mr. Griffin provided safe environments for children to play near their homes by creating many cul-de-sacs in the well-landscaped streets, medians, and park areas laid out by Mr. Griffin set the stage for the first homes erected in the development. And whereas on December 31st, 1931, by a vote of its 113 citizens, the town of Biscayne Park was incorporated, and on June 16th, 1933, A state charter was granted, changing of the name of the town to the Village of Biscayne Park. And whereas in 1933, in the midst of the Great Depression, the Federal Emergency Relief Administration provided the labor for the construction of a log cabin, a unique and distinct homage to the Great Depression, as well as to the simplicity and perseverance of the American frontier. And whereas the cost to construct the cabin was met by individual donations, which, given the national financial hardship at the time, reflected the generosity and commitment to community of the residents of the Village of Biscayne Park. And whereas at a special ceremony on January 24th, 1935, the finished log cabin was officially dedicated to the Village of Biscayne Park. And whereas the structure continues to be the center of daily operations of the Village of Biscayne Park and its approximately 3,000 residents, and a proud symbol of the community's humble beginnings and continued success. Now therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the State of Florida that the Village of Biscayne Park and Mayor David Coviello, Vice Mayor Barbara Watts, Commissioners Bob Anderson, Fred Jonas, and Roxana Ross are recognized on the occasion of the village's 81st anniversary. And on behalf of Representative Campbell, I am honored to present this proclamation celebrating the Village of Biscayne Park's 81st anniversary. Together, we have hosted many events to aid the constituents with diverse needs. I am delighted for the upcoming events that we are sure to have. Keep up the great work.
This one I'm going to present it to you because this is for the village.
Thank you.
You want to take pictures?
Always a picture. Sure. Just like that. Very good. Excellent.
Thank you.
And the next one going to be the mayor. I don't have to read it, Mayor. Come forward, please. On behalf of 120 members and myself, I present this to you and keep up the good work. We love you. After a man is a woman now. The commissioner, the vice mayor now, Roxana Ross. Vice mayor, come forward. Roxana. Commissioner Ross, that's my girl. I love you. Thank you for good. Next one gonna be Commissioner Barbara Watts. Woman first, after the mayor. Wow. Commissioner Watts, thank you very much.
Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Following one is Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Jones. The last one, the best one, Commissioner Anderson. Thank you, Commissioner, for your good work. And keep it up. Right, Commissioner. Thank you. And finally, thank you all for support. And let me tell you, my agenda for next year is to make sure I have money for the village to have their own library. I need Village of Biscayne Park to have their own library. And I'm going to bring that money. The following one, we're going to bring money for the senior hot meals. Because there's a lot of seniors here. We're going to have hot meals for them. And the third one, we're going to have money for educational center for the seniors. Instead of for them to stay home, they could have a place for them to, be together and things like that. So thank you very much. May God bless all of you. Keep it up and fire up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Campbell, for coming. We appreciate it.
Oh, that's a good
And,
idea.
to quote your friend Governor Scott, let's get to work and build the village hall. So thank you. All right, so we're going to have the next presentation is Tracy Turano. Item 4B, is Tracy here?
We're going to have members of the foundation take the podium right now. This
Okay,
this
excellent.
presentation is on behalf of the foundation.
Okay.
My daughter, Tracy Tarano, is out of the country at this point, and on behalf of herself and Arthur, I am here to accept the foundation's certificate of appreciation on her behalf.
Excellent.
This is for donations that Tracy and her family made to the foundation for the Biscayne Park, and they're moving out, right? So this, before they leave in, they're giving us a nice gift for the village of Biscayne Park and the foundation. Thank you.
Please tell your daughter thank you very, very much. Okay, item 4C. A proclamation, July is Park and Recreation Month. Is Issa here? Come on up. All right, so July is Park and Recreation Month, and we have our Park and Recreation Director, Issa Thornell. Issa, as many of you know, is a tremendous, tremendous asset to this community. I've seen him in action, and you do an excellent job every day, and we appreciate it. So keep up the good work, and we're very appreciative. So I'd like to offer this proclamation to you. I, David Coviello, the Mayor of the Village of Biscayne Park, do hereby recognize the month of July 2014 as Park and Recreation Month, and further extend appreciation to our Parks and Recreation Director, Issa Thornell, and the entire recreation staff for their work and dedication in providing quality recreational programs to the residents of the Village of Biscayne Park. Issa, congratulations.
Good job.
All right, any additions, deletions, or withdrawals from the agenda? Staff, anything?
Nothing from staff.
Anything from the commission?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes, I'd like to delete or postpone for another month the 12C, increased communication to residents.
Okay, so 12C comes off. Anything else? Okay. All right, let's open it up to public comments. If you would state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Tracy Trutman, 791 Northeast 116th. First of all, I want to thank the Commission for all their hard work to get us $1 million. When you have a $2.5 million budget, that's a whole lot of money. So I know there was a lot of hard work that went in from the Mayor, Vice Mayor, and everybody else, the staff. And I just want to say thank you because we often don't get a chance when we come here to complain about stuff to say thank you. So I'd like to start with something positive. Also, I want to thank I think it was Roxanne Ross for bringing forth the equity of marriage support. I know there's some issues in terms of how to go about doing that, but as a person who's been gay and been married for 22 years, legally or not, depends on your perspective, I believe that you should have the right to be married and the legal rights therein. I should be able to get insurance. I should be able to go to a hospital and not worry about what happens with my partner. So I would like to see anything we could do to support this from a personal level. It's a civil rights issue. It's been a long-term civil rights issue, and I think it's about time we move in that direction as a village, regardless of how you go about choosing to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Chuck?
Chuck Ross, 11166 Griffin Boulevard. Well, I'm gonna change around. I want to just support everything that Tracy just said, so she'll save me the time of going into that item. And The only thing that the concern might be is that if there's a lot of attorney time involved, maybe we can just do it in the form of supporting a resolution to support what Miami Beach is doing. Hopefully our attorney, maybe he'll think about doing it pro bono though, helping us out. Anyway, first thing I want to do after that, I want to welcome Chief McKenna. We look forward to working with you through our Crime Watch Network. You want, was everybody here for the swearing in? Okay. So he doesn't have to stand up. I'm not going to make him stand up then. And we want to have a Crime Watch meeting with the group. And, you know, actually the Crime Watch group is anybody who lives in Biscayne Park, whether they're on my list or not, by the way. So, but we'd like so we can introduce you and you can talk to the group and explain, you know, your philosophy, et cetera, and welcome. Okay. And I want to thank Daphne Campbell, who I think has left the room. But I want to thank her for all of her efforts, and all of the administration and the staff and our commissioners and our mayor for helping achieve that $1 million over there. I want to address an item that Commissioner Watts brought on the, she's requesting a reimbursement for, it's interesting that she brings this because last year there was an item brought by my wife Roxanna Ross to have an accounting expense reimbursement policy where we would not have commissioner salaries anymore, but rather you would use your a set amount, and we would use that to reimburse yourself for village-related expenses, educational opportunities, et cetera. And this way, and by the way, the advantage of doing that is if you're spending most of your salary to on village expenses, or if you want to go to courses and such, then if you do it as an IRS-approved accounting reimbursement policy, then you won't have to pay. We can eliminate the tax issues. So there'll actually be more money available because it's only reimbursements that are legitimate business expenses that would be reimbursed. So if last year at the prior commission, this didn't get any support from the majority of the commission. But if this is the type of thing that what Barbara is, or Commissioner Watts is requesting, this is the type of thing you could do. But since you didn't do that, then where the money has to come from is your salary. You know, the mayor and Roxanna Ross, Commissioner Ross, or Madam Vice Mayor Ross, excuse me, they just traveled to Tallahassee, and they were only getting reimbursed for half the cost of their trip. Commissioner Jonas here, he just attended an email course, which is 3 days in Delray Beach, which means he wasn't working, he wasn't making income, but he was, and he paid for that, and he's not asking for a reimbursement for that. So I just don't think it's appropriate that because of, you know, and I don't think there's any room in the budget for it in any case. So.
Okay.
Am I time up?
Yep. Thank you, Chuck.
Janie Anderson, 11th Place, 119th Street. The trade fair, I think, is an awesome idea. If we can't exactly shop local, we can certainly support local. And I can't imagine that a nominal fee wouldn't cover all the expenses involved. And it'd be a great way for all of us to know who among our neighbors are running various and sundry services, businesses that we can take advantage of. I think that's awesome. And that ties in, Dave, to what you want to start with, a marketing campaign. I know people tend to think like, well, how do you fund something like that? Well, you start little. You start with like the idea you have with the magnets. It would be really nice. I was talking to several people out in the front during the break. It's an obvious transition when you come into Biscayne Park from North Miami. We need to do a better job of showing people who we are and why we're such a really special, unique community. So I think both of you had absolutely great ideas. Now, the funding, item 12D. You know, just because there's a surplus in an account today doesn't mean there's going to be one at the end of the fiscal year. There's still several months away. And if there is one, there could be another critical line item that goes over, and those funds might be needed. And if there still is a surplus, that's great. What do we all talk about? We want to build our reserves back up. Well, you only do that one way. It's pretty simple math. You spend less than your budget. And you can't do it by spending money just because it's there on a non-essential item that wasn't in the budget in the first place.
Dale Blanton, 12025 Griffin Boulevard. I just wanted to come up in support of Commissioner Ross's proposal, of joining the city of Miami Beach in support of the gay marriage. My partner and I have been together for 31 and a half years and look forward to the day when we can get married in the state of Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Maria Barth. I'm the Deputy Director of SAVE. SAVE is an LGBT advocacy organization, and as such, we represent around 60,000 pro-equality voters in Miami-Dade and Broward County. I'm really here to ask the city to please take a stand on marriage equality, whether it's in form of an amicus brief or a resolution in support. Currently, Florida is one of the few states that continues to have a ban on marriage equality. There's about 5 lawsuits going on through the state of Florida. Through the state of Florida to try to get rid of that ban. But as we see, and as we're, time goes by and our families are out and talking about this issue, we recognize that cities like Biscayne Park really enjoy the diversity and invite families to be part of the community. And that's simply what we're asking for, is the families of Biscayne Park to feel the backing from Biscayne Park. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, Brian McNulty, 1008 Northeast 116th. First, I wanted to say a thanks to everyone who was involved in acquiring the funds for the cabin overhaul and annex. That's going to be very exciting and long overdue. Second, a high and a warm welcome to our new chief. And third, to give my support also to do whatever we can do in support of marriage equality. And, again, I'm not sure what we can do exactly, but just I'm in support of it.
All right. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. All right, let's move on to item 7A, Candido Sosa Cruz, the sanitation services transition update.
Good evening, residents, mayor, commissioners, staff. My name is Candido Sosa Cruz, assistant to the village manager. Today I'm going to be providing a sanitation transition update. It's going to be one of many updates that staff is going to be providing the residents and the commission prior to the exact transition of our in-house sanitation to outsourcing. The first update is in regards to the preferred collection services location. Each one of the residents today or possibly tomorrow will be receiving a survey. Pretty much a survey, it's going to be looks like this. Pretty much you open it and it's going to have 2 questions. The first one is collection services location, if you prefer curbside collection of garbage, or if you prefer side/backyard collection of garbage. Also, there's going to be a recycling cart selection. You could indicate if you prefer a 65-gallon rollout cart or a 35-gallon rollout cart. Pretty much, again, you just check mark which of the preferences you prefer. The second update is in regards to the sample of colors that can be chosen to the recycling cart. The cover memo has some of the sample of the colors, as well as the boards that passed out to the commission. And the reason we're bringing this is up for discussion on what color we want the recycling cart to be. One of the recommendations given to staff from the manufacturer, as well as some experts in the industry, is that blue is an international color for recycling. That concludes the presentation on the transition update. Oh, one last thing. The survey, we do have the survey also online on our website. So far up to date, we received 40 submissions of their survey. So if you don't want to fill it out, you could go to our website and submit online. And that's, again, the location of collection of service and also the recycling cart size. And if anyone has any questions, I'm here.
Thank you very much.
Dave,
Are we- Yes.
comment?
Sure.
Yeah. Just to remind people that when they're choosing between the larger and the smaller receptacles, they're both, by the way, outside here, in case anybody wants to be reminded. It's less of a problem to have a bigger receptacle than you need than to have a smaller receptacle than you need. The other thing is that there will be an effort over time to help us learn how to recycle more, and more things will become available to be recycled. So it may be that in time, more and more stuff will go in that recycling bin and less in the garbage. So you may want to think about getting the larger bin, even though it looks pretty big.
With respect to the color, are we going to?
We'd like some guidance from
Okay.
the commission tonight on it. We have this flexibility to order. We asked them to send us basically nature earth tones, and then of course you have the Kentwood blue, which is the international blue. But if the commission could have some discussion about it and give us some guidance, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, we had discussed this before, and I think that although the blue is recognized as the international color, which I wasn't aware of, but I think for this community, it's so green, and I would prefer something that would blend in more with the environment, so we're not driving down a road with blue canisters that really stand out. So I personally, in favor of one of the green tones. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You raise first.
Oh, okay. Just one thing I would like to residents to consider the height of the cans with respect to the height of whatever fences that they have. If the fence is relatively small, you'll have whatever recycle can visible, even though it may be behind a fence. So I think that's something to take into consideration. And I concur with Mayor Coviello regarding the green. I think that's for a village. Even though the blue is the international color, I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures in an article in the Biscayne Times of how in Belmead on Recycle Day, it's just an endless line of blue. And I think we are wanting to be a green city. And I think that actually the piano green, to my mind, was one of the...
The Plano?
Plano?
That
Yeah.
was the one I chose.
Plano.
Yeah.
Because the darker ones, it just reminds me of when I had a friend who had bathroom fixtures that were black and showed every little bit of dirt, and he said he'd never do that again. And it's the sort of thing I think that it would, it's not too shiny, not as the Kelly green is, and I think that's a preferable one.
Okay. Commissioner Anderson?
I kind of disagree with the dirt part.
Okay.
Because a lot of people keep it behind foliage. The darker the color is, the less you're going to see it. So if on recycling day that's out in the street, it may not be perfect. It may be a little dirty looking, and I'm sure if you keep it outside, no matter what color, it's going to get dirty. But I think what we're trying to do is non-recycling days to keep our trash cans, recycling bins, and everything else out of the sight from when you're driving down the street. And if you happen to have it behind foliage, unless it's completely dense, if it's a brighter color, it's going to show through that foliage. So I look at whatever color, I'd like to have it as a dark shade.
Okay. Any other comments? Was that guidance?
No.
But there are many shades of green.
I'll make a comment
Okay.
on the colors. I mean, it sounds like the majority is in favor of the green. I would just caution that sometime in the future, we may want to move to other types of collections, like we might want to move our regular garbage collection to this type of process. And if we're picking up the green for recycling, then
Thank
what
you.
do we use for other regular garbage?
I mean, I think there's enough. I think there's enough natural tones. I guess we can go with brown, but
I also see the blue as sort of a reminder, because it is the international symbol, a reminder to people, this is your opportunity to recycle, be friendly to the earth, use your blue canister. But
I agree. I agree with Rox, just for the record.
All right.
Not that it matters, but I
Green,
do.
green.
Well, I like a dark color.
Okay,
Because
dark
here's an
green?
a dark green. Because here's an example. If you had foliage in front of this, unless it was really dense, you're going to see that.
Okay, but the darker green, the dark green is so dark.
Yeah, not forest green, dark green, I believe, right?
Right, and that's what I look at. The darker it is. I happen to have black chain link fence around my foliage in my yard. You can see the fence if you really look for it, but it doesn't jump out
That's
at
not
you.
a true color.
Okay, so I think dark green is, if you're supportive of dark green,
I could live with it. I prefer the other, but I'm open to compromise.
I would prefer the forest green, but I'll take the dark green.
Okay, I think dark green. All right, okay.
Heidi,
Sorry.
your clothes look dangerously like those bins.
So which way she's leaning?
Just look, you're such a troublemaker.
I'm just saying.
This is what they call dark green. Yeah, that's like the forest a little bit.
we're on the losing end on this one.
Okay.
You're
right, then we.
Like I said, I just want it to be hidden.
Yeah.
That's all. It can be purple, make it dark.
All right, is dark green? Okay, dark green. All right. 7, okay, let's move on to 7B. Erwin is here, our finance director, to review the monthly financials.
Good evening. There's a few items we're going to cover tonight. First, I'd like to start with the monthly financials for the period ended May 31st, 2014. You should all in your materials have the financials for the month. First, I'd like to do is take a look at the general fund. As of May 31st, we are 66.58% into the year. So, of course, we're going to look down at our expenditures to see which one of the departments is over the limit, and none are. I will advise you that I have applied the mid-year budget amendment that we approved and into the amended budget, so that those have already been applied. And you can see that overall we have an average of 58%, which is about 10% below where we should be for the year. So our expenditures are being held down, which is a good thing. The revenues are all coming in basically on spot. You'll notice the miscellaneous. I reported this in a previous month. We're showing it's 186% of budget. That was for all those car accident refunds we got from the insurance companies. We had about 3 or 4 of them, which made up the bulk of the differences on the revenue side. I also this month showed you on the right-hand side cash in bank and our fund balance. So you can see what our cash in bank is as of the end of May. Don't get too excited because it's showing $1.2 million in the general fund, but remember, all our ad valorem money comes in up front, and we still have 4 months left to actually 5, June, July, August, September, 4 months to the end of the year. So we're going to be spending that right through the end of the year. So that balance is going to come down significantly. One topic that's always asked, where is our fund balance? So you can see where our fund balance stands as of the end of May in each one of the specific funds. If you turn the page, we're going to take a look at the roads fund was pretty straightforward. It's right on target. We're at 56% of budget. There were really no overages. There was one small line item, but it's insignificant. The only budget amount's $150 for the year, and it's really insignificant. If we turn to the last page, we can see the sanitation budget. There were a couple of line items that were over. First of all, on professional services, we've already used up 88% of the budget, and that's because we had the consultation services for the solid waste management, which is an expenditure which brought our actuals a little bit high for the month. Going down to vehicle repairs, we had some additional vehicle repairs, especially for unit number 700-3 with $6,496, as well as unit 700-7. 2 other line items on depreciation expense. There were just two under budgeted line items for depreciation and debt service. So that you can see that we're Overall, we're fine. We're at 65% for the year versus a budget of 66, where we should be at 66% at the end of May, but we did have a few line items that were over the limit. The other thing is that we were asked during the last meeting some questions on sanitation. Maria, have you handed out that sheet to them? Great. So the question was, how much money do we have on our sanitation fund and how are we spending it? So what I did is I prepared this chart for you. It will show you that all the net profit for the sanitation fund from 2007 really through 2014. So you can see that, remember, fund balance is an accumulation of profits and losses each year. So if we take a look at the peaks and valleys as of the end of 2014 projected, we will have $27,000 sitting in the sanitation fund at the end of the year. Now, of that amount, there's a due to due from between the funds of $19,000. Now, we had the question, what happened last time? I think Commissioner Ansher, you asked about that $91,000 loss, and I think this kind of explains it. That the 95 is just part of those peaks and valleys, which come up with that $27,000 balance projected as of the end of September. Sure.
My understanding is, after the conversation that we had with the manager, that what you're showing here is the monies that basically has been paid back to the general fund from the sanitation fund. So there is nothing hanging out there as a debt in the general fund of $91,000. The sanitation fund has paid that back.
As a matter of fact, if you look at that last number, that $19,000 is a projection of what one fund owes the other as of the end of September. Right. You're right, because remember that the sanitation fund doesn't have its own bank account, so all revenues and all expenditures are going into the general fund. So at the beginning of the year, when we get all the sanitation revenue in, that's going to be due to the sanitation fund. And as we spend for contractual services, for salaries and the other expenditures, it's going to flow back the other way because the general fund is not paying the expenses on behalf of the sanitation fund. And that's what creates that due to, what's called the due to, due from between the funds.
I just want, that's the reason why I asked that question, because I know some of the commissioners and I know the audience thought that the sanitation was borrowing this huge amount of money from the general fund, and it was in debt to the general fund. And basically what has happened is over those years, it's paid it back. And now we projected for actually a surplus.
Right. But you got to remember that if you look at the fund balance of the sanitation fund, 2 years ago was $135,000. The next year was $42,000. Right. This year we had a loss of 18, which brought it down to 27,000. So that balance every year has been going down dramatically every year. There's not a lot of fund balance that's left at this point.
Right. Any other comments?
Just two questions. What you have in the sheet that the clerk just handed us shows the very last line, projected due from general fund, September 30th, 2014, $19,455.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me you project that at the end of the fiscal year, that's going to be the fund balance in the sanitation fund?
No, that's going to be what the general fund owes the sanitation fund at the end of September 2014.
Based on?
Based on the years, the borrowing back and forth between the years.
So there's a shortfall that the general fund has to cover.
Would have to cover. It'd be $19,000. And normally you don't cover it. Normally it just keeps going year after year. But if the enterprise fund, say, was going to cease tomorrow, then we would have to do a transfer out of the general fund into the sanitation fund at that point.
Why I'm sorry.
So just to be clear, $19,455 will be applied from the general fund in order to balance out the sanitation fund to zero.
Right.
And do we know why in 2012 there was a $91,000 deficit?
I'm trying to remember.
It's just so dramatically different from the other years.
Yeah, I know there were some huge repairs on the trucks during that year, but what I'm going to do is, and I did not have time today, it was kind of a crazy day, but what I'm going to do is I will prepare an analysis of what made up the $91,000 so you can see what the individual line items are.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
One more question, I'm sorry. Going back to the first page where we show cash in the bank, $1,250,000 some odd dollars. I'm sorry, $1,250,000 some odd. and we are now, have consumed some of the money that was advanced with the ad valorem taxes to us a couple of months
Right.
ago. So my question is, investment policy. What are we doing to maximize any return possible with the money that we, sort of get paid early on in the year, in the fiscal year, in order to stretch those funds?
Right, and I've had this conversation with the manager, and that's something we want to take a look at. To arrange some sort of float that it can go into a savings account, and as we need it, we just transfer to the operating account as we need it. But again, with what the rate of interest is today at half of 1%, it's not really it's going to be insignificant anyways. But it's still something I would like to take a look at because interest rates can change.
I think it's something that we should pursue, and I would recommend checking out the Florida League's programs, and maybe there's something there that we can tap into, because every little bit really does count.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Jonas?
What does it cost us to run the village on a monthly basis?
It depends on the month, but if you want to look at basic, like what the basic salaries are and the basic expenditures, I can give you that information. I mean, I don't have it off the top of my head to tell you what it is on a month-to-month, but I can give you that.
We have $1.25 million left right now, and that has to last us for what, 5 months, did you say?
Right.
Is that going to last us
Sure.
for the 5 months?
Yes.
We're going to have something left over?
According to my calculation, we should have a small amount. I haven't done a projection to the end of the year yet.
A small amount means less than 100?
I don't know. I really can't get. I will in the net. What I will do is we're getting closer to the end of the year now. Next month, I will give you where we are year to date and what the projection is to the end of the year to give you an estimate of what that final number will be.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Erwin, thank you very much. All right, consent agenda. Have a motion to approve.
I make that motion to approve the consent.
I'll second it. Okay, motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, ordinances, first reading, ordinance 2014-05.
Mayor, this is an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending Chapter 10 of the Land Development Code entitled Design and Improvement Standards relative to roofing, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. It's a request to hold the public hearing, approve and set second reading. And this is a item that came to you as a discussion item with Mr. Hartung, and we've moved that into an ordinance, made some other minor changes to it, but this allows metal roofs under certain circumstances and with the review of the planning board.
Okay. Before we open it up to public comment, does staff have any?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Does anyone want to comment on this ordinance?
Okay, Harvey Built, 450 Northeast 121st Street. I think it's a long time coming, and I believe what everybody means by saying metal roofs, they mean standing seam roof. Because there are many different kinds of metal roofs. There are metal roofs that look like shingles and everything else. But I think we're talking standing seam.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
the ordinance is specific to standing seam, no S.
Barbara Kuehl, 111th Street. I'm in favor of the ordinance, and just before I say that, I don't want to take extra time, but I am also in favor of the marriage equality. There are just a couple of things with the ordinance that I found confusing, and I don't know if they were done for a specific reason, if it was a mistake, or if this was the intent. My biggest problem is with the homes in the village that have asphalt roofs. There are most of the time they're smaller houses, sometimes they're wooden houses with, a lot of them don't have overhangs, and they have asphalt roofs. A lot of them on 119th, 118th Street. And the way this is worded, it says that the roof material from now on will be tile or metal. And they don't mention asphalt, because with good reason. I know they don't want new homes with asphalt. But what happens is if somebody wants to repair or replace a roof that has asphalt, it says asphalt shingles or wood may be used in re-roofing to replace an existing asphalt shingle roof or a wood roof respectively if an engineer's evaluation is provided to the village certifying that the roof is not structurally adequate to utilize any of the other approved roofing materials. So the approved roofing materials become tile or metal. So what happens if somebody has a small house without overhangs and they have an asphalt roof and they need to replace it? And they have it checked by an engineer and they say it will not support a tile roof, but it will support a metal roof. The way it's worded here, it's saying that if it can support any of the approved roofing materials, you have to use that. And there aren't that many little houses with asphalt, but I think that's a tremendous burden to tell a homeowner that now you have to switch to a metal roof, which might not suit the house's design. A metal roof can only be used if it has overhangs of 12 to 18 inches. So that means the overhang has to be changed. There's no provision that if it can't support a tile roof, and it could support an asphalt roof or a metal roof, that they have the chance to continue to use asphalt. And that's the way it's written here. So I hope you learn the intent, and I would think that you should allow people in those situations to continue to have asphalt. But before you go ahead and just push the ordinance through, please take your time to, 'cause I'm sorry that the chair of the board isn't here to discuss it, but I think it's a really important issue for anybody that's going to be replacing their roof. So, and the other thing too is, in the very beginning it says, whereas the village commission deems it to be in the best interest of the village to permit metal roofing materials on homes within the village. But it really should be buildings or structures. It shouldn't be just homes, because we have municipal buildings, other buildings. So it should be extended to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Any other comments?
Dave,
Yes.
question for Barbara.
Sure.
Barbara, were you looking at 7E on page 3?
Yes, she was.
Well, that's another, we have another mistake there.
I just mean it says
It's not 7E, it's
asphalt
15.
shingles can be used to re-roof to replace existing asphalt shingles.
Right.
Isn't that what you said you thought wasn't there?
No, if I may, Mayor.
Yes.
But what it does say is providing that another approved roofing material doesn't exist. And so what I believe Mr. Kuehl's saying, if a metal roof would fit engineering-wise, it would require a metal roof. And I think the request is for if there's an engineering that has some reason that needs to be asphalt shingles or wood, that it can stay asphalt shingles or wood if there's an engineering that supports that. But
Gage is here now.
But secondly, and I do see him, secondly, there is a difference between tile and metal is for roofs with a pitch of more than 2.5 inches per foot. There is, and Mr. Hartung and I spoke about this last week, there is separately for roofing materials only need to be of engineered built-up roofing material, which is a term of art that Mr. Hartung and I spoke about. If the pitch is less than 2.5 inches, and Mr. Hartung may be able to respond to this better than I do, but I think a lot of your asphalt and your wood tend to have less of a pitch. And so in that case, that is considered part of the engineered built-up material.
Can we get some clarification from Gage and Gary?
Sure. Gage, you want to? Yes.
This is the public hearing part, should we?
Right, but
The public hearing's over. I think everyone spoke.
no, I think that we can keep the public hearing open and have Gage speak, right?
Sure. Yeah, I thought actually someone else from the public.
Someone
What's the question? Sorry.
Yeah, hi, Gage. Hi. The issue is, with E, we talk about asphalt, shingles, or wood may be used in re-roofing, providing there's an engineer's evaluation.
Yes.
And that certifying the roof is not structurally adequate to utilize any of the other approved roofing materials. And the question was, so if maybe tile is not structurally strong enough, but it's strong enough for metal, is the intent to require that roof then to turn into to be a metal roof when it's re-roofed?
The intent was to have it so that if, when the roofs are re-roofed, that they are re-roofed either as tile or metal.
That was the intent.
That is the intent.
Okay.
And that's what it says, so.
All right, so any other comments from the public? All right, so we'll close the public hearing. This is just first reading.
It's first reading.
Okay, so it's going to come back.
And the one, I'm sorry, Mayor, but one important thing I wanted to alert the commission to, and this is not many ordinances, but Mr. Hartung and I spoke about this, and this is something that his board wanted, is that we have it in here as that there's no variances from any of these provisions shall be granted. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Anderson.
Ms. Kuhl emailed me the same questions that she was just asking. And I'd like to go through some of the areas that she was talking about. One is about changing it on page 121, as far as the changing it from homes to buildings, because there's a lot of other structures that are not homes here.
Sure.
Then on the roof pitch, as far as what she was discussing, if it's a shingle roof and somebody wants to redo their roof, and structurally it will not support the weight of tile, whether it's clay or cement. The question, I really didn't quite get the answer. Was it, on that case, was it the intent that to go for metal or to still allow shingle, wood, or metal, to give the choice to that homeowner?
No, the intent is that if you can support metal or barrel tile, you have to use that rather than the wood.
Correct. No, what I'm saying is if structurally it would not support the weight of the tile.
But it's the weight of the metal, the intent is to require metal.
But metal is pretty light. So in other words, if you had a shingled roof and it's not structurally, will not structurally support the weight of the concrete or clay tile, you have to then go to metal, because if you go for metal, not only the cost of the roof, on some homes you have to completely redo your whole roofing structure for the code for the overhangs. And I think I'm not sure whether that was the intent, because I think that's going a little bit too far. I think we should be able to give the homeowner the option of, on that case, metal, wood, or shingle. But I'd like to hear from, the chair what
The intent is not to make somebody, if they can prove that with an engineer's statement that the roof cannot be supported,
Correct.
they would be allowed to put a shingle roof back onto the structure.
Could they-
We're not forcing them to go into a metal roof or
Right. Could they put shingle, wood, or metal, if the structure will hold those weights?
Yes.
And that was, reading this, and I have to, thank Barbara Kuhl for pointing this out to me. Reading it, it's not clear. And I just want to know, legally, is it clear, or do we need to change the wording to coincide with what the chair just said?
And really, we only have one roof, wood roof, which is the cabin.
Right, but should we rule out anybody else for whatever reason? Because a wood roof is not cheap. And, if it can't support the weight of a shingle, if it can't support the weight of the clay or the concrete, should we not allow to have a wood roof, wood shingle?
Commissioner
Well, I see,
It's something that's never actually come up. I
yeah,
mean,
well, what if, I thought that there might be a phrase that might solve the problem, because if someone has an asphalt roof and then wants a tin roof, in order to meet our code, the tin roof would have to have an overhang. And if there's no overhang, then that person would have to have an engineer or an architect put an
Right.
overhead, which would be a great expense. So I was thinking that in that number 7,
What page?
okay,
Line
it's
up.
page 3, that's where the thing is. When, E, asphalt shingle, 7, page 3, 9E, I guess it is, or something. Asphalt shingles or wood may be used in re-roofing to replace existing asphalt shingled roof or wood respectively if the engineer is blah, 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 blah. Okay, if the engineer certifies that the roof is not structurally adequate to utilize any of the approved roofings, I would say add something to the effect of, or if the house does not meet the standards for a tile roof, then asphalt would be allowed.
Well,
Something like that.
I would want to keep with the overhangs, but I agree. In other words, I would keep if a person wanted to put a metal roof on that house, they would then have to go with the overhang standards.
Yeah, so I wanted to do a default so that if you don't want to change your entire roofing system and incur that expense, then you would have the option to stay with the asphalt.
Or I would like to see if there was a problem going with wood
I'm
shingles.
sorry, Commissioner, I don't understand your point. You're saying, so people with asphalt would get an exemption from this overhangs? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, an exemption from the metal roof.
Requirements?
Yeah.
Well, then
Because
that
if
would
it's a
give,
metal roof, it would require all the overhangs. So if
but that would give the people with asphalt shingles a special exemption other than the people that have tile roofs. I mean, the entire point was to restrict and limit and to regulate the way that the metal roofs are applied.
Yeah.
This provision really is just, it's not exempting somebody from, the requirements to put a metal roof on. That's not the intention.
No, I thought it would be, the intention would be, if it's not possible, even though it weighs less, okay, if a metal roof is not appropriate for the house, it doesn't have the sufficient overhangs, then the owner could just go back and put another asphalt roof on.
No, that's what it says. It says here, you could actually put another asphalt roof back on.
Well, no, actually, the way it's written, Gage, is that if it is strong enough for a metal roof, that's another one of the approved roofing materials, so it would have to have the metal roof on it.
I see.
But if your intent is not to do that, we can change it. But it's clear as it's written that a metal roof is an approved roofing material, and therefore, if the engineer says it can't be tile, but it could be metal, that they'd have to put the metal on. That may not be your intent, and that can be changed, and then if the commission wants it to be changed, we'll make that change between first and second.
Well, it does say it's not structurally adequate to utilize any other approved material.
Right, but
So if a metal roof is an approved material,
and it's structurally adequate.
structurally adequate to
allow
store
it, we would not allow the asphalt back on, we would allow the metal back on as it's currently written.
Was that the intent?
Yes.
But if it's structurally adequate and it doesn't have an overhang that is required for metal roofs.
Then you have to add the overhang when you put on the metal
Right,
roof.
as it's currently written.
Right.
And I think that gets prohibitively expensive. It's a
Okay.
real burden on the homeowners. I would like to see, like we were just discussing, if the house cannot support concrete roof, the homeowner can put the shingles back on that they had, a shingle roof, but give that homeowner the option to be able to put on a wood shingles or metal.
Which
In other
they
words,
do.
So right now, the way I see it worded, they have to put the metal on.
No.
To me, that should be one of their options.
Approved roofing material does not include wood, right? It's metal or barrel tile, so you wouldn't have the option to do wood.
No.
Or the asphalt shingles.
Concrete tile.
But it's saying that if, it does say, hold on, I'm reading it as, if you have the wood and you want to replace it with wood, you can.
You can?
Okay.
If there's
I
an
think that's respectively. So, I guess we need to work on this language.
Well, right. It's very, I mean, one of the easier things to do is to let people replace them right now, period. That makes it easy. I don't know how many there are, but if you're trying to transition them out, then we can work on language. If you let anyone that currently has an asphalt roofing material continue to replace it, that makes it very clear. If you want to have an engineering evaluation,
Yes.
then the way it's written would be, because you're trying to upgrade the roofs, now I understand there's an overhang issue, and I don't know what the expense of that is, I'm not a roofer, but apparently it's great. Then we can try to address that. How would you like us to address that, I guess, is the
Going back to what I was saying, definitely would want to have an engineering report, because I think we have a few houses here, for whatever reason, over the years, they ended up with a shingled roof, and they're not that old of a house, but that's, so if we have an engineering report, and they cannot support the weight, I think the homeowner should have the option, there's 3 options: metal, wood shingles, asphalt shingles. Okay. Commissioner Ross, you had something?
Structurally sound, does that not mean that it would need to have the overhangs to have a metal roof? Isn't that part of the structure?
Yeah, I think
Isn't that
that's part
just
of the metal
aesthetics?
roofs. I mean,
You can do a metal roof without an overhang. It's just aesthetically, it looks better with an overhang.
We're putting it in the code that you have to have an overhang.
No, but her question is, do you need the overhang to install a metal roof? And the
According
answer
to
is
the
no.
proposed new code, you do.
No, I know, because we're doing it for aesthetic reasons.
Right.
right, and I guess when you look at it, since the metal is a new thing that you're bringing in, if you just simply said that if the engineer's evaluation shows it's not structurally sound for tile, then they're allowed to put either an asphalt tile, or wood, or metal
Right.
at their choice. That makes it pretty clear, because your metal's a new thing you're bringing in, so if you go back to your tile as your issue, whether it's structurally sound, and give them the 3 options, that's an easy thing to write, an easy thing to enforce.
So I have a question. I have a question for the chair. Was the intent to move people from asphalt shingle to metal?
Oh, yes. The intent is to strengthen our roofing code
Right.
right now, currently, our code is that anybody that builds a new house in the village is required to put a tile roof on it with a pitched roof. So
Right.
the intent was to try and uniform our roofing materials.
Okay, understood. I think that it's a bit of an imposition for a house that has a asphalt shingle to move to a material that's twice or 3 times the price.
But-
And if they have a deteriorated roof, I'd rather see them, replace what they have than not do anything because they just can't afford to do it.
But
So-
I mean, in the same light, the people that have tile roofs are being asked to replace them with tile roofs. They don't have the option to downgrade their roofs to shingle.
Yes. Right, not to downgrade, replace with what you have, or upgrade.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments from the commission?
Yeah, one more. I wonder if there's an inconsistency between what is stated on page 2 under 10.4.6
Yeah,
Roof
A
material-
with 5, right?
with 5.
Exactly, yeah.
Between it's either 2.5, I guess it's because of using more or less and changing the way the sentence is phrased, but roof material shall be of tile or metal for roofs with a pitch of more than 2.5 inches per foot. And then on the next page,
It says 3 inches.
3 inches will be
Less than 3 inches will be prohibited, whereas on 10.4.6A says you have to do it with a
2.5.
pitch of 2.5 inches.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually-
10.46 includes tile.
Yeah, A actually includes tile. That is differentiating between built-up roofing material, this is actually the way the code is written now. This is exactly what it is now. It's just it's differentiating when you have to start using tile at what pitch, basically. And then the number 5 down at the bottom is just an exclusion just specifically for metal.
So it should be specific, A should be specific for,
Exactly.
or
Two.
that language
It does
should
say.
maybe
Yeah.
come out, and B and 5 with 2.5 inches are needed for tile,
Right.
3 inches for metal.
Yeah, under 5A.
5 does talk about from installing metal roofing.
Real quick, so
Just put-
Florida building code, you can't put tile on 2.5 inches. That's by Florida building code.
Right, and that's why it's in there that way.
It has to be
But-
put-
Right, if you go,
Yeah, what I'd like to do, if we could, is address E before we get.
yeah, no, let's address this, the one issue with section E, 7E, right?
No, it's not 7, it's just E.
I'm sorry.
It starts on line 13.
Yep.
So that was the suggestion.
Right.
Well, 10.4.6A says more than 2.5 inches per foot, and item 5 on the next page says 3 inches. Is there any pitch that is more than 2.5 inches per foot, but less than 3 inches per foot? Is there any such
Yeah,
thing?
2 3/4, and that would be for tile.
Is there a 2 3/4?
There could be, yeah.
Well, then,
It's how you build something.
Then you have to, then you have a discrepancy that you have to reconcile. You have to
There's
do-
no discrepancy there, Mr. Commissioner, because that is tile. 5 is only for metal roofing. But
Right,
if we get back to E,
10.4.6A is about metal roofs too.
No, it's not, it's also tile.
It's tile, but it says tile or metal.
Tile
Yeah.
would be
Right,
2
it sa-
3/4.
but it says tile or metal.
Well, why can't we just be specific under A? And it could be repeated perhaps later, but 2.5 for tile and 3 for metal.
Because tile can be 2 3/4. That's just straight out of the building code, and that's why it's that way. If we want to tweak that, we can tweak that. I think it's only going to confuse the issue, but I'd be happy to do it. But I think we need to do E.
All right, just make sure that's not inconsistent. All right, so let's get to E. So, if Gage, you're saying the intent was not, you're saying the intent was to eliminate asphalt shingles to the extent we can, right? That's the goal, is
The
to
goal is
move everybody towards.
To make all the roofs uniform, yeah.
Okay, but I'm getting a different, Gary, you disagree with that?
May I ask a question? I'd like a clarification.
Sure.
For people who now have asphalt tile, what I'm hearing is if I have to replace that asphalt tile, I have no choice but to go to metal or barrel or tile if it's structurally able to take it. What if I don't, I want to keep that asphalt tile? I'm hearing, no, you can't, you have to go upgrade.
That's how it's
I
written.
want a clarification.
That's how it's written.
That's what we're trying to do.
That's not right.
Okay.
That's not right. So for those residents who have asphalt tiles and want to keep the asphalt tile, they should be allowed to keep that, or if they want to go elsewhere, that's fine, that's their option. But you're forcing them to go to an additional expense to do something they don't want to do.
Yeah, but all your neighbors have the same, have to go through the same expense. And all the people that have tile roofs have to replace them with tile roofs.
That's fine. If I have an asphalt, I should be able to replace it with the asphalt.
Okay. All right.
That's all I'm saying, but that's
Gary,
what I'm hearing. I'm hearing,
Okay.
You're forcing us to change.
Okay. Gary, do you want to, as a board member, come up? Yeah, and just speak to the,
It's gotta be very clear.
This is a point of clarification. I found out in reading the code that you can't have a metal roof on less than a 3-in-1, a 3-in-12 pitch. Same with the tile, so it is 3 inches. The 2.5 really should just come out. It's a conflict. There are houses in the village, like Commissioner Anderson pointed out, that I think have somehow snuck in asphalt shingles. And that was the original goal. If people have done that, that they could support a barrel tile roof, is that, yes, we would make them use a metal roof or a barrel tile roof. And we did vote on the idea that if people had asphalt shingles, that we were trying to upgrade. That is, if you look at some of the other communities where that's been allowed, it has a negative impact. It is a cheaper, less attractive material. That's not to say that, you know, in some of the smaller houses that historically had asphalt shingles, can only support, can't support a barrel tile roof, that you may want to consider that, or the idea that maybe they don't have to do the overhang. As far as the overhang, we originally had 18 inches when it was a low pitch, and we cut that back to 12 to make it less ominous. It's not really a structural, it's a structure, but it's not a structural element. It has really nothing to do with the support of a metal roof. It is merely, as the mayor said, for aesthetic reasons. There are examples in the community of houses that don't have that overhang with metal roofs, and it really looks not as attractive as it might if it had an overhang. Anything else?
No, I think that clears it up.
Yeah, I
Oh,
do, yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want you to think through this and maybe explain it to us. Thinking about what Bob and Barbara said and what Rosemary said, if you have somebody who has a shingle, an asphalt shingle roof, and that's what their roof can tolerate, they can't tolerate tile, and they need a new roof, what we're now asking them to do is go from the cheapest option to the most expensive option, and if they don't have an overhang, they have to install that too. And I wonder if that's really what you want to be asking your neighbors to do.
Well, that's what we voted on, yes. That's exactly what it says.
And so somebody who is in that situation and can afford a shingle roof but cannot afford a metal roof, and the roof material, the structure they have cannot tolerate tile, what do you say to them?
No, if it can't tolerate tile or metal.
No, it can tolerate metal.
Okay, then you have to put it
lighter.
right.
And they can't afford metal, but they can afford shingle. What do you say to them? What do you want us to say to them?
They can replace it with shingle.
No,
that's not what it says. It clearly does not say that. That's not what we voted on. It's not what it says. It's very clear that the intent was that they'd have to replace with a metal roof. I'm not advocating that. I'm simply saying that's exactly what it says.
And does it an overhang?
You personally are not advocating what this proposal says?
Yes, I do agree with it.
So
I'm not
I'm
here
asking-
to advocate
So I'm
for it
asking
at
you,
the moment.
Rosemary, do you have a shingle roof? Yes. Okay, so Rosemary has a shingle roof, she needs a new roof.
Of course, I won't be able to sit next to, go back to sit in front of Rosemary, but anyway.
She needs a new roof and she can't afford metal, what do you want to tell her?
Look, if the commission disagrees with it,
Then we won't be respectful.
you know, I'm not going to answer that
All
question.
right, Commissioner Ross.
If the commission wants to change it, change it.
Okay,
Okay, if you think it's unreasonable, fine.
Commissioner Ross.
I think that we should close public comment and then proceed to address the issues as we've started to frame them.
Yeah, the public comment was closed. It's just that these are board members that were answering questions.
Okay, then I have a question because it sounds like the two board members have a different understanding of what this paragraph says.
Yeah, my understanding of what we voted on was that if you can prove that your structure cannot support a asphalt shingle roof, or I'm sorry, a tile roof, and you currently have an asphalt shingle roof, you can replace it with an asphalt roof. That was what I felt I was.
That's not what it says.
So,
Okay.
we're not forcing people to put metal roofs on.
That, which was my question before, is basically going from the cheapest option to will we be forcing them to go to that 3 times higher option? But that is not your understanding of the intent.
That's my understanding, and we have a board meeting tomorrow night, and I guess we'll be talking about this to make sure that we're clear on the board.
Okay. So this is a first reading, and I would, first of all, I think we need to have a motion to move the ordinance to be approved for first reading, and then talk about the changes we want to do on the ordinance.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Jonas, second by Commissioner Anderson.
Then I think we should at least give the attorney our consensus on the first issue that Commissioner Anderson addressed in the third whereas clause, that it shouldn't be exclusively homes.
That's fine.
No,
But
buildings.
structure.
Buildings.
Be structures
Okay,
or-
buildings, that's fine.
Or structures.
Yeah.
So then to address paragraph E, dealing with the asphalt shingles or wood and the replacement of asphalt shingles or wood, I understand the concept of moving to an upgrade on the roofing material if the structure can support a tile, and I heard barrel tile often, but I think that an approved roofing material is also flat concrete tile. So just for the record, to understand that we're not requiring everyone to have a barrel tile. They're just called tiles. It's either barrel tile or it's flat tile. So I understand the concept of trying to move asphalt shingle to tile,
But if the roof doesn't support tile, I don't agree with requiring that they go then another upgrade to a metal roof. And if the rest of the commission agrees with me, I would direct our attorney to rephrase the language so that that asphalt shingle building can be replaced with asphalt shingle if they have the engineering report to say they can't support tile.
I would, rather than directing the attorney to change the language, why don't we direct the code review committee to reconsider this in their meeting tomorrow?
Well, this is our first reading, and we want to go ahead. Let's change the wording now, so then the committee knows our intent of the commission, so they can have that part of our discussion, their discussion. And, you know, I'd like to follow what our attorney said for the wording on that. In other words, to allow a person to have the option, replace it with the shingle if that's only, you know, it's a given. We're talking about if it can't support the weight of concrete or clay tile. So to let that person then have the option to go ahead and put asphalt shingles, wood shingles, or metal roof. Let the person, let the homeowner decide what is best for them.
What is what is the cost of a barrel tile or a concrete tile compared to shingle? I know shingle is less expensive, but is it significantly less expensive?
It's about a third the price, is that right?
Yeah.
About a third the price?
It depends on the complexity of the roof, but it's not a third of the price. It's usually about 2/3 of the price. So what I'm saying is, let's say it's $10,000 for a shingle roof. The tile roof will be $13,000.
Like an asphalt shingle.
Okay. I agree with.
Wood shingle, first off, I just want to say, is not fire rated, and you have to have a fire rated roof assembly per Florida code.
Yeah, I don't agree with the wood. Okay.
I mean, they've been trying to eliminate it. The only place that have it are actual historic buildings.
Okay. I agree with Commissioner Ross. I think this is what you said, is that if you cannot structurally support a barrel tile or a concrete tile, then you're allowed to go back to the shingles. You're not forced to do a metal. Is that
correct?
Okay, I agree with that.
You
That
mean
would be
asphalt?
my preference too, but I would like the code review committee to think about that and discuss it.
Okay. But that's not, I don't want this to hold up coming back for a second reading if code is going to discuss it again.
Okay, you know, you can move forward, and code may give you more input, but ultimately, it's your decision.
All right, that's fine. So they can come at second reading and give further input if they'd like. But
Yeah.
that's the direction I would like to give staff, is to redo the wording if it's the consensus.
Okay, I'll fall back on what you were saying about, you know, on the wood tile, which was pointed out, you know, it's not fire rated. But with this new ordinance, when we need to re-roof the historic log cabin, how does this going to work with this ordinance?
It's
Are municipal buildings exempt under our code from?
It's historic.
Right, it's a historic building, would have some regulations, if you kept it homes, it wouldn't apply to it.
Yeah, but it's not a registered historic, to my knowledge.
Yes,
it's-
it is.
Yeah, it is.
Dade County.
Oh, Dade County, but not, okay. So
Or should something be in there, the
Yeah, but
exception
Mayor, we would
is?
still have to go by the Secretary of Interior standards for the state money.
Okay, all right.
Well, I was reading in paragraph 3 where it says shingle or wood respectively, so whatever the existing material is, that's the material that would be replaced. They're not interchangeable.
Right, the way it's written.
If
So, but a wood roof would not meet the Florida Building Code?
Nothing's going to be allowed that doesn't meet the Florida Building Code, no matter what our ordinance says. The Florida Building Code would preempt and supersede it.
I know, but I'd like to, if we can get it right in the ordinance and not write something that's inconsistent with the building code. I think.
We got the, you know, Sal, is he back? Okay, so we'll get
All right, so let's, if wood is not permitted, then let's take it out.
But I want to make sure how it applies then, that ordinance. If we don't have anything in there, how's it going to apply to the log cabin? Or do we need to have just something in there where it applies just to that structure?
Okay, so we make sure that whatever we do with respect to the log cabin, that we have the ability to replace it with wood.
Okay, so we're going to get with the city's building official.
Okay.
Get those answers.
Okay.
So we'll get those answers.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I have a couple of questions. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but since we do have a roofer and an architect in the audience, what would be the ballpark amount of money for someone who's got an asphalt roof, who's got to put a new roof on, but has to add an overhang around an entire house? What kind of a would that be? A $20,000 cost, a $10,000 cost?
Depends on the size of the roof.
Depends on the size of the building.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a two, let me
Like
put
a
this,
two
in.
one.
One 2x4. When you're re-roofing a house, it costs $3.50 a linear foot, roughly. So if you say you have to add 2 feet around on each truss, you're talking $2,000–3,000. And at that point, usually when you're re-roofing, you want to enhance the structure, and most people put straps on, and that's actually part of Florida building code now, because of all the insurance issues, was that you have to actually upgrade the roof-to-wall connection based on the value of your house, or if you're doing an extensive repair, over 50% of the value of the structure, meaning you have to bring it up to today's codes.
Sometimes misleading, though. Quite frankly, it's an extension of the truss, and if you have to anchor the truss that's there, you're going to lower your insurance premiums. That's got to be done anyway. That has nothing to do with this extension. And
Okay.
No, but it's over to a lot of
It's a
people.
12-inch
All right, good.
overhang is all we're talking about.
Okay. All right,
A
so
lot of houses have it.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering too, with a house that doesn't have it, if it was designed not to have it, how that would change the appearance. You had this, you know,
There's
overhang.
probably
Half of
very
it.
few houses, if any, that don't have some overhang.
Yeah.
okay, so this is going to come back, but there was a motion. Do you want to amend your motion with? Can you repeat your motion?
I make a motion to approve on first reading ordinance 2014-5 with changes that we have discussed this evening, and the instruction to staff to rewrite paragraph E to reflect that asphalt shingles or wood could be replaced with asphalt shingle or wood if the structure's not sound enough for tile.
Okay. Your second?
Tile.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Jonas.
I just have one question on that. With that motion, does that preclude if a person wanted to put metal?
No.
No.
That wouldn't?
You could always upgrade.
Okay, okay. And further changes can be made at second reading. So,
We'd have to actually have the actual language, so, but yes, they can.
okay,
But usually not major ones because we need the actual language.
right. Okay, so all in favor? Aye.
Roll call?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, roll call.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Jonas?
Yeah.
And Mayor Coviello?
Yes. Okay, we have a second reading, ordinance 2014-04.
This is an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending Chapter 3 entitled Animals, relative to dogs and city-sponsored events, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. Second reading, Mayor request to approve and hold public hearing.
Okay. I'd like to open it up to public comment. Anyone have any comments on ordinance 2014-04? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment.
What does that actually mean? I'm sorry, just for, you bring dogs to the event, is that what it's about?
It's to open up the restriction on the park with respect to pets for special events like the July
Specific.
4th.
Specific.
Specifically for.
Right, yeah.
Okay, open it up to Commissioner Anderson.
These are only events that the commission has approved of that particular event at that particular time to bring a dog in.
Correct.
And outside of that, I think, everything is fine. I'm just wondering, do we really need to have on line 18, where, whereas the village will be holding a Bark of July event on the 4th of July. Does that need to be actually in an ordinance?
In other words,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, in other words, can it be more general to any village, any event authorized by the village commission?
Right. Remember, that's not your ordinance. That's simply your whereas. It's just describing how we got
Okay.
here.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Okay.
So there's nothing in here that limits it to the 4th of July then? Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just have the same unease about this that I did before, which is that there are some people that just don't like dogs, and they would like to have a place where they could come and do whatever they want and not have to be bothered with dogs. So maybe the commission will decide that on very few selected events of the year that those people can just not use the park. I'd rather not say that to people.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2014-04.
I second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Watts. All in favor?
No,
I'm
roll
sorry.
call. Commissioner Jonas?
No.
Vice Mayor Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
And Mayor Coviello?
Yes.
And then, Mayor, timely, I think the manager's going to request that you authorize dogs in the park for this Friday's event. This is
Okay.
the ordinance that approves it. Now you need to approve it.
So I make a motion that we authorize dogs be allowed in the park for the Bark of July event on Friday, July 4th.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. Can I do a roll call now?
That's the motion.
Aye.
All right. Motion
Any against?
carries 4-1.
No. 5-0.
Ah, okay. 5-0. Okay.
We'll lynch it off.
Let's see here. No resolutions. Full business. All right. 12A. Fine reduction request.
Evening again. This fee reduction is for property 845 Northeast 119th Street. Originally, Mr. Mike Tamani requested a lien search on property 845 Northeast 119th Street. The lien search was requested on September 9, 2013. Staff reviewed the records under the previous owner, which was under the previous owner, whose name, which under the name that the staff research only came up with total fees owed to the village of $952.67. Again, on May 21st, 2014, a lien search was requested by Skyline Lien Search on the same property, 845 Northeast 119th Street. This request was requested by a bank. The previous procedure was when a bank requested a lien search, that staff would review all contents in the street file and search for any possible name of previous owners, and then search the county records for any recorded liens under those names that were originally in the street file. During this search is when a recorded lien showed up. The recorded lien was it was a municipal lien for $227, which was recorded back in October 1995, and in which the total owed to the village was $5,860.40. And the lien search company sent the information to the bank, and the bank told Mr. Tomani how much was owed, and Mr. Tomani came to the village and was explained what happened, and in which he requested a fine reduction, a fee reduction, due to the discrepancy in the two lien searches. Staff reviewed all the paperwork and also saw the discrepancy and recommended that this fee reduction be brought up to the commission, and this is where we're at now.
Okay, thank you, Candido. So, Mr. Tomani?
Yes.
When he purchased the property, he requested a lien search.
He's here as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's in the audience if he wants.
Okay, sir, would you like to address the
See how he
commission?
purchased it?
Hi, Mike Tamani, 845 Northeast 119th. This property was a bank foreclosure, and the bank had owned the property. Then it went to the actual courthouse sale where they were selling the property. So I came into the Village of Biscayne previous to that courthouse sale because I knew that I was going to bid on it and buy it on the courthouse steps. That's when I paid the $75 for the lien search. That's when the municipal lien that was against the property was shown as no amount on the first lien search. Then there was a lien search in May, and that's when it was discovered. But it was a 1995 $200 amount that had accrued for 20 years at 18% interest. So I based my price of what I would have paid for the property on the first initial paperwork that I received from Biscayne Park. If there would have been if I would have had the knowledge that there was $5,000 worth of liens, I either wouldn't have bought the property or I would have adjusted my bid downward so that I wouldn't have a financial loss.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, unless the commission agrees, but I think it's, you know, the fact that he did the right thing and requested a lien search and did his homework, and that, you know, the scope of our search wasn't adequate to address a lien that we recorded. I mean, I don't know how we hold them to those fines.
To me, what this has really shown, that we need to have a unified system in place of when people request liens searched, not one system for the bank and one system for the other.
Well, I think the issue is that I guess the way that the village searched the county files, they didn't search under all the names, but the fact of the matter is that if the village is the one that recorded the lien originally, we should rely upon our own records to know what liens we have recorded against which properties, and not have to search the county records and wondering if we covered all the different prior owners.
In a perfect world, correct, but we do not have excellent record keeping from when previous liens were filed.
No, I understand that. I'm just going forward.
But to address Commissioner Anderson's concerns, we are currently putting in writing an internal policy, and basically the full search will be done for every search request. There will not be different tiers of requests, because while we knew internally that we were doing a different kind of search, of course the customer didn't know that.
No,
And we'll be correcting that,
And
yeah.
I do not blame you know,
Yeah.
the owner that purchased the house. I can attest, going back into the earlier 90s, on waste liens or waste bills, they were actually in a handwritten ledger going, and they keep going back. There is a major, major problem on that. And I do agree with the mayor. The owner of the property came forward, asked what liens were out there, was given an answer, and I think we need to stick with what we told them.
Okay, but is there an issue with the $932.67 that we did tell them about? It indicates here that there's no issue. That's going to be paid. Okay.
You expected to settle that lien,
Yes.
932.67?
Yeah, because that was notified, that was given to me as the balance,
Right.
and I expected
Right.
to satisfy that. And I mean, I'd even be happy to pay the 1995 amount of the $200 and some so that the village gets paid what they were originally owed from 1995. I don't have a problem with that. What I had a problem with was the not knowing about it and then 20 years of interest.
Okay.
Mayor, we have a tabulation of the 932 provided in your backup.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How we got to that amount. We have a tabulation
Okay.
chart of that.
I thought that I saw where we didn't have sufficient documentation, but that's fine.
All right, so the only request is as to that original, the 200 and change, the 952.67, he will pay.
Okay,
Not an issue.
all right. Is that the consensus?
Motion
Motion?
for 95267.
Before we make a motion, I've been trying to get a word in here.
Sorry.
I can appreciate that, well, in our package, there is a recorded lien.
Correct.
And that sort of puts the world on notice that there's something out there that owed out to the city. If this were a regular purchase of the house with title insurance, then that information would be picked up and tracked down.
Actually, there were 2 previous sales with title insurance where those title companies,
Can you please come to the podium?
it was.
Yeah,
Can you
step
come up,
to the-
because, so it gets recorded onto the system?
I believe the previous sale in 2001, there was a bank loan, which is the people that went into foreclosure from when I purchased it, and this lien from 1995 was not satisfied during that closing either. So the title insurance or the title search should have found it at that time as well.
One
But
of
if-
the
but if-
challenges with title searches is that it's recorded in the owner's name. So you have to do a lot of detective work in recreating every person who's owned the house to make sure that you find all of these liens. They're not recorded in the folio, they're not recorded in the address, but they're by owner name, so it's always a...
No, but the information is recorded by legal description. I mean,
The title company has that.
Right.
And this one was too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then, since the gentleman has already offered to pay the $932.67 and the $212.27, although the village is always looking to maximize every possible source of income, there are extenuating circumstances, so I would accept reducing it to that combined amount.
Okay. So is that a motion?
Okay, I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
That's 113294.
All right, motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Watts?
I can't understand how we had a search in September of 2013 and then one just not even 2 years later, and have such
Right.
different results, or how even when the previous owner bought the house, that the bank didn't know of the liens and cover these things. If this was taken over by a bank, the bank should have paid these.
Okay.
And I don't know how. I think we should go back to the bank.
Okay. All right, so are you voting?
But I'll go with it.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Mayor, would you consider moving up 12G? We have a guest here on that
Ah,
item.
yes, sure. All right, so we'll take 12G next. Vice Mayor Ross.
This item came to me from our former alternative city attorney, Eve Bootzis, who's now with the city of Miami Beach. Of course, Miami Beach has a large legal department, and they handle many matters. They have several attorneys addressing different issues. And so she forwarded to me an item where Miami Beach had voted and instructed their legal department to prepare an amicus brief in support of an action that's currently pending in Miami-Dade County dealing with marriage equality. And I thought it was a good, well, first of all, I'm very excited about all the movement that you see in towards correcting this issue. And I thought it was a good thing for the commission to at least consider supporting a joinder in support of the amicus brief. And I consider it a fairly inexpensive way to speak in support of the issue and also to support our families in Biscayne Park. In the last couple of months, last 6 months or so, I've been to at least 2 marriage celebrations of same-sex couples, and those families, they had to go out of the state in order to formalize under the law their relationship in a state that allows that to happen. So with that, I welcome comments from the commission if you're supportive of this, and perhaps there may be other measures that we could pursue in support of marriage equality.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ross. Vice Mayor Ross. Commissioner Anderson?
You know, I definitely believe in marriage equality. I mean, I think it's inhuman not to single out a certain group of people. Financially, so I support that. Financially, the way our city is sort of on the edge, we're getting back from the edge a little bit, but we're still close. I can't support expending funds. What I would like to see us do is to have a resolution drawn up in support. I can support having a resolution, but I can't support expending our city funds. I think we're running too tight.
Spending village funds to do what?
Yeah, maybe the village attorney can explain, number one, the approximate cost, and two, what the options are with respect to supporting this.
Thanks, Mayor. And before the approximate cost, I think it's important to think about what we want to accomplish. And I think Tracy Trutman's still here, but I like the way she put it. It's an important civil rights issue before. So so how do you accomplish? There's a lawsuit that's been filed challenging the state of Florida for failing to have the Marriage Equality Act. Now, what Miami Beach has done is they've filed what's called an amicus curiae brief, or a friend of the court brief. Their brief is about 3 or 4 pages of table of authorities, a bunch of cases, a bunch of their city codes, a bunch of articles that have addressed this, and they talk about and the statistics that they have about their tourism revenue, and some of the things in there is, for example, they estimate that for the city of Miami Beach it'd be $182.2 million in business revenue in the next 3 years for actual marriages and events and things. And they've done a lot of their research, and they're very fact specific on that issue. And they have their legal argument in there, but a lot of it are issues, for example, what their cost is for their various employees, that we really don't have those statistics to be able to really move forward with. So if it's not as simple as filing a brief that simply parrots the city of Miami, I'm sorry, the city of Miami Beach's brief, and then even if you did one that simply parroted it, there's really no value to a court, because you're not giving any new arguments. So, so if you want to file an amicus brief, we have to talk about, well, what do you want to accomplish from that, and how are we going to do that? And if we're going to do, if we're just going to somehow parrot that, we don't even have the stats, number one, and number two, I don't know what the value is. So that's something to think about. Now, if we can, and I haven't had a chance to look at this, if we can file just a simple document that embraces their amicus curiae brief, maybe there's something like that we can do. Traditionally, you file your own brief, but if there's something like that we can do, that will cost you nothing. That's a very simple thing to do. If we wanted to come up with a new legal argument, then who knows? I mean, that's not an easy thing to do, and I don't know if we're the appropriate people to do it, since we don't have the statistics that a lot of larger cities have. So, so again, if we can file something that's simple, that supports them, I'll look into that, trying to do that. Obviously, passing a resolution and sending it to the state, to your United States senators, to the city of Miami Beach, we can do that too. We can even send a letter to the judge, just letting him know we passed this resolution.
Okay. I think if the goal is to express our support for same-sex marriage, and not so much to actively be in the case and develop arguments which I don't know that we're in a position to financially spend that money to do it. I think then I like the idea of, at a minimum, passing a resolution in support. Even better, doing what you alluded to, is to file something in the case from the Village of Biscayne Park supporting the case, if there's some...
Notice of support for Miami Beach's amicus curiae brief,
Correct.
something like that. Be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think for the reason Tracy articulated, we really must do something. It is a civil rights issue. We must do something.
No, I agree with that.
So maybe we can decide what to do, or Roxy can guide us to what she had in mind, but we have to find a way to do something.
Thank you again, and thank you for the entire commission to really be in support of these issues. I've heard nothing but good things
Just state
about
your
this.
name again.
Oh, Maria Barth, and I'm the Deputy Director of SAVE, which is the local LGBT advocacy organization. What the city attorney is telling you is correct from our point of view. The city of Miami Beach actually filed 2 amicus briefs for 2 of the 5 lawsuits. The lawsuits that will strike down the ban are going to be defended by the state of Florida, which would be the Governor Rick Scott and the Attorney General. So if you're thinking of doing a resolution, it would be great if that resolution could also be accompanied by a letter to the Governor and the Attorney General. I think that that'll have the same value as an amicus brief, since we don't really have the data for Biscayne Park to actually go through with an amicus brief and actually add more to the lawsuit.
Okay.
Rox, does that work for you?
Well, my item was not to file our own brief, but to join in support of the City of Miami brief. And I typed up a joinder today at my office, not on this issue, but on issues at work. And it's a simple 2-page pleading that says we join in their brief.
So joining in the way that's just been described to us.
So, right, not building up a brief for our populace, but just in the.
So not submitting it to the clerk of courts, is what you're saying.
Okay, well, why don't we let our attorney determine what the appropriate...
I think probably when you joined in the brief, you were probably co-party to join in a brief, right? We're not a party.
It wasn't an amicus situation.
Right.
Right.
We're not a party. So I can look at it. I mean, like I said, I'm more than happy to do anything like that to
Okay.
support that.
Well, in any event, I think a lot of this discussion has been good, and perhaps it sounds like we have consensus to join in a resolution just in general support of marriage equality, and that would impact not only on this particular litigation, but on all of the other cases that are going on. I think it's a little bit pressing that we get it done soon, because there's so much activity going on in these court cases now, and it's important for us to have our position known and to support our constituents and do the right thing. So,
But again, I think if there's a mechanism to do a 1-page, 2-page document that will actually appear in the court file, I think that I would prefer that than just us passing a resolution, or we could do both.
I would recommend doing both.
Right.
So with the urgency, we could do a draft and adopt. So
Yes.
you would approve, okay.
I'd like to find out, if we go the other, go that other part, what would your cost be on that?
To do a simple joinder?
Right.
I've been asked by many in this room, and I would happily do it for free. That would not take much time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I would
Dave?
support both.
Okay.
The manager
All right,
will
great.
take
Dave,
Thank you.
motion then?
Yes.
Mayor, can I jump in real
Sure,
quick?
sure.
While we were sitting here tonight, I did receive notification from a contact I have in Miami Shores, and they had a resolution on the agenda tonight, and it was pulled due to some overwhelming public comment, and they're not sure if there's support for it there. So I just thought I would share that information
Okay.
with you.
No, I think that we're proud to be at the forefront of issues like this. And
Yeah, this ain't Miami Shores.
Right.
I was just clarifying that issue. Thank you.
Is this something we can have prepared, since we're going to be having a commission meeting on the 17th? That maybe we could have it on the...
Well, let me suggest two, because it's really two different actions, is a draft and adopt, a motion to draft and adopt the resolution in support of marriage equality, and that would be the umbrella statement. And then, if we can get through that motion.
Okay.
Go ahead and make it.
And it's made in a second.
Okay?
No, second.
Okay, motion by
All in
Commissioner
favor?
Ross, second by Commissioner Watts. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I would make a second motion, or just maybe instruction to the village attorney, who has graciously offered his services pro bono. If it can be accomplished through a court filing that is a simple statement, we do too, then we move that way.
Okay, motion by Commissioner
I'll
Ross.
second it.
Second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
again.
very much.
All right, we'll move back up to item 12D. Commissioner Watts?
C or D?
No, C was pulled.
We skipped B.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
12B.
I think C was pulled.
Vice Mayor Ross.
Me again?
The fair trade thing?
Oh, fair trade.
Trade fair.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We've had a variation of a trade fair maybe 2 years ago, and my intent this time around was really to build it on people who have home-based businesses, but also people who live here who have businesses, and even businesses that do work in the village, whether they be contractors or air conditioning repair people, or all of the people that really service us locally, to showcase those services, promote our local businesses, and sort of build a kind of little mini chamber of services that our residents could tap into. I started preparing this thinking that we could perhaps have it sponsored by Y-Green, the Coastal Clean Corridor, but unfortunately there's been an appeal filed on that decision with regard to the bond issue, so it's going to take a while longer for us to be up and running with that Y-Green proposal. Still, I'm asking that we plan for such an event, a mini market event, to occur in October after school started, and I think that would give us enough time to plan for and advertise. And so I'm asking for the Commission's approval.
Yeah, I think
Any
it's great.
comments?
I think it's great, yeah. In case you don't know, the foundation is beginning to look into the idea of planning regular weekly farmers markets. And this kind of thing might dovetail nicely with that, even on an occasional basis. So I think there's a real theme going on.
I make a motion to approve what was presented by Commissioner Ross.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Ross. Any discussion? Okay. all in
Mayor,
fa-
I would just like to know if in our preparation of the budget for next year, if there's money we should budget for, or do you think this will be a wash with the fees that we receive?
I'd like to see it worked out to be a wash rather than budget for
wanted
it.
to make sure
I don't know that it wouldn't make money.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, item 12B. This is funding for tuition costs for Commissioner Watts.
For the last 4 years, Katie Sorensen has, 4 years ago, founded an institute called the Good Government Initiative that's through the University of Miami, and she sponsored these seminars for newly elected or elected officials that run for start in the summer and run through the fall. Commissioner Ross was in the inaugural class. Last year, Mayor Jacobs attended, and both have told me how valuable that experience was in no uncertain terms. I've attended the first, the sort of opening reception dinner, and found that actually among the other people who are attending this will be people from City of North Miami Beach, Miami Shores, El Portal, as well as about 17 other municipalities. And I think it would be a really good experience for me and help me in my job as commissioner. The syllabus has come out, and there are sessions such as, operating under the sunshine laws, making sense of differences between commissioners, doing finances and budgets, and a host of other things. And I think I would learn a lot and would be better equipped to do my job as commissioner if I attended this. Of the funds that have been allocated for the commission and for activities and doing things, perhaps for education, there is money in the budget. I have only been able to, because of my teaching schedule, to attend, I think, one of the League of Cities meetings in the last year. So if I think 4 or 6 of them are at $40 a meeting, I've only used one of the $40 of that amount. And so there's money left over from that. I also did not attend the gala, the $150 a ticket gala that other commissioners did. And so that money I didn't use. And I don't think that I'll be able to attend the Florida League of Cities Commission, because that's the week that school really resumes, and we have faculty meetings all that week. So I think there could be money be found. I think it's an invaluable experience, and I know that one can say, yes, come up with the money yourself, et cetera, and so forth, but I'll just have to not tell you all of the personal things that have gone on in my life. But this year was my discretionary income was completely wiped out, mainly, not for all reasons, but because leaving the rec center after I went to pick up artworks after our 80th anniversary, I was in a car accident and my car was totaled. So all discretionary income I have is gone. I've paid the $500 deposit for the Good Government Institute, but that's just basically used up everything I've got for that purpose. So I leave it to my fellow commissioners.
So the total cost is $1,750. You paid $500?
No, they gave me a $250 reduction.
So what is the total cost?
So then the total cost would be $1,200, of which I paid. Let me get that right. Of which I paid $500.
Okay.
So it would be $1,500, and then my $100, so $1,000 left. And I was talking with the secretary today because I called asking about something else, and there's only one other village municipality that hasn't covered the cost of the entire thing, and El Portal, and several others that are also small municipalities with small budgets, including Florida City. And
so there's $1,000 remaining?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Ross?
Okay. I commend you for registering for the Good Government Initiative course. I found it a really good experience, not only from the marvelous speakers that they have, people who have experience and have either been through local government, maybe now serve in state government, but also for the relationships that you build with peers in other cities. And it's invaluable to have that sort of trading of ideas and experiences. I did attend the inaugural class, and I've attended other trainings through the Florida League, but I've never been reimbursed by the city for any of those for those trainings. And in addition to that, I've made the trips to Tallahassee and not recovered a full reimbursement for those trips that were really to advance issues for the city. I considered that those expenses were sort of being paid to me by the salary that the city pays me. And last summer when we talked about the budget, I proposed that rather than collect a salary and have the city and I both pay payroll taxes on that salary, that we instead do a reimbursement program, IRS-approved reimbursement program. In other words, that bucket of money that would have gone to commission salaries, that it be used to pay for the expenses of being a commissioner, the expenses of getting the training, the expenses of going to and networking with other cities at different events. I still think it's a good idea. I'm going to bring that up again when we talk about budget. But for today, this particular item, it's not in our budget. And because there's $1,300 left in that particular line item of the budget, well, I just yesterday put in my reimbursement for the trip to Tallahassee in February. The trip, airfare, hotel, and car, not including the incidentals, was $860, and I'm getting reimbursed for one half of that, $430. So that would come off of whatever balance, perceived balance there is for that line item. Also, the Florida League's annual conference, the registration for which is $425. The budget has earmarked reimbursement to each commissioner who attends, $125. So I'm registering to attend that. I'm going to pay $300, and the village is going to pay $125. If, you know, that whatever balance is left in that line item needs to cover that for $125 for the commissioners that are going to attend. You know, I think it's great that we do arm ourselves with the tools that help us do this job better, because no one is born knowing how to do this job. And I think that the commissioner really does have to plan to support any commissioner that's going to go out and avail themselves of those tools to get the training and build the relationships and networks. But it's just not in the budget this year. And simply because there's a balance there on that line item, it doesn't mean that it's available to reallocate for some other purpose. It has an intended purpose.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, this is one of the examples why it's important to have backup information. I was completely unaware last year that our mayor at that time was paid partly out of this for that course. It was never brought in front of the commission. And I'd like to ask the staff to go ahead and pull together the materials of how that came about and what can we do that this wouldn't happen again without it coming in front of the commission for expenditures out of a line item that tells you exactly what they're for, and it was used for something else. And to give it back to the let the commission see how this happened, because I'm a firm believer shouldn't be a pool of money that the commissioners can be using for non-budgeted items. We went through the budget last year. This was a public budget. It says in here what it can be used for. And we're not at the end of the year yet. So we don't know exactly until we get to the end of the year what's going to be left in there. And it's great when you have money left over, because that money then can be used for maybe there's someplace else in the budget that you overspent. And if you didn't, this is where our reserves come from. And I think we need to be looking at financially what we're doing. And just like Commissioner Ross was saying, we're paid a salary. And we can pick and choose out of non-budgeted items of what we want to spend our salary on. You know, I'm involved with the League of Cities. The city, out of this, pays for the meetings that I attend.
out of my salary, I pay for my transportation, parking. I happen to be on one of their committees. I pay for that 100% out of my salary because I feel it benefits our municipality. And it benefits our municipality even if I happen not to be in office, the information that comes back to our staff, I think it helps. And I'd rather not see something spent that once a person is not in office, it's lost. Example is our mayor last year. He's not here. What do we benefit from that, him going now?
Okay. Any comments?
Yeah. I really think we're talking about two different issues here. One of them, and Roxy talked about this, is it's frankly very laudable, I think, that Barbara would want to do this. It sounds like it's a wonderful opportunity to learn a lot about government and about local functioning. I'm looking on page 1 of the backup for this, and I see that in the first paragraph there's mention of early career elected officials. In the second paragraph there's some description about some of the topics, and they include things like ethics, budget and finance, land use, governing, working with constituents. These are, and I'm going to say this sort of as an aside, but these I would say are essential things that elected officials should know about. And again, I really commend Barbara for having the ambition to extend herself to find out more about this. Having said that, I will tell you that maybe a couple of weeks or so ago, I attended a 3-day, all-day institute offered by the Florida League of Cities. It's called the Institute for Elected Municipal Officials. It covered all of these topics that are mentioned in paragraph 2 on page 1, and it was specifically for early career elected officials. So it's precisely this kind of material. As I said, it was 3 whole long days. The tuition for it was only $300, not $1,700 and something dollars. And I would say that if any of us wanted to go deeper and know more, that would be a wonderful place to start. The same organization, Florida League of Cities, also offers an advanced course, which is coming up in October, and then a course beyond that, which is coming in November, and each of them is less than $300 each. So I really think it's a terrific opportunity to try to accomplish at least some of the goals that Barbara's asking about with GGI. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's wonderful that she wants to do it, and I strongly encourage it. The other issue, however, is whether elected officials essentially are there to give or to take. And I think being an elected official sometimes is more of an opportunity to give than it should be seen as an opportunity to take. There are certainly municipalities that recognize that, and they essentially don't pay their elected officials. They understand, and the elected officials understand, that they're there to do a part-time service, not to make a living. And I think my own personal philosophy is like that, that you're really here to do something for your neighborhood, not to see what you can get from the neighborhood, including even support like this. So as much as I appreciate where Barbara's coming from in wanting to do this, and I encourage her to do it, I would remind her that she does get a salary, has gotten one for each of the past 2 or 3 years, and will get another one for another couple of years or so. She might consider that that's what it's for. This is a voluntary opportunity. It's completely discretionary, even though I do think it's a good idea. If she wants to save money and accomplish this much cheaper, I would go through the Florida League of Cities. But I don't think, at least for me, that I would view this as an opportunity for the village to provide for the commissioner. I think the commissioner really should be looking to provide for the village.
Okay. Commissioner Watts, if you are unable to come up with the $1,000, is the $500 refundable?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that, and I agree with what everyone has said. I mean, I think it's great that you're looking to do this, but I just think I sort of see it as a luxury, and in a perfect world, all of us would be able to attend something like this, but we're at sort of a crossroads, and we're trying to tighten our belts, and it may not seem like a lot of money, but I think we need to look at every single item, and I think that's why when we go through budget season, we're going to start from, I don't know what you call it, from a zero budget or bottom up. So we really need to start with that mindset of looking at every single expenditure. So I can't justify this as much as I think it's great for you to attend.
Okay.
Can I offer
Sure.
just maybe a little bit of a compromise? Is since we each have an opportunity to go to the Florida League annual conference, and the village kicks in $125 for that educational experience, would the commission be willing to, since Barbara's not going to attend the Florida League annual conference, would the commission be willing to move that $125 over and apply it towards her GGI tuition?
Sure. I mean, is anyone else not going to attend?
Which event is this?
This is
The
the
annual-
Florida League annual conference. It's being held in Hollywood this year.
Oh, right.
And
yeah,
the
in August.
Right. The registration is $425, and the village pays $125 of that.
Yeah. Well, I personally am not going to attend because I don't think it's necessary or important. But having said that, and maybe I should have said this before too, we are frankly so desperately far behind in meeting our municipal responsibilities to the village that I think there's something frankly unfair about finding small amounts of money in the budget and saying that those must be free-floating amounts of money that could be applied for some other luxury. I think we have a lot of really essential places for those 50s and 100s and 500s to go.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. So I think that's.
I was going to say I agree with Commissioner Jonas because we could be opening up a door that we don't want to go. We shouldn't be going down because the next commissioner can say, "Well, I've got something I wanted to go to too. I'll take my $100 and some odd dollars."
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'd just like to say one more thing.
What's that?
I'd like to say one more thing.
Sure.
Okay, I knew that this is how the discussion would go, but Katie Sorensen urged me to put this on the agenda. I told her it was probably hopeless. And I just wonder, though, about saying, okay, if we use the money for anything, it's a slippery slope, we're going to do this and that and the other thing, when I think the meeting that I was not, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the meeting that I was, at which I was sick in January, was a meeting that this commission allocated funds to, for commissioners to attend the League of Cities Gala in the amount of $300. And I then, when I received the invitation to say whether or not I wanted to attend, I wrote back and said, put my money towards the trees, and I declined. So I just wonder if perhaps you might consider adding that $150 to anything you might give me, but I understand completely if you don't. Just one more thing. I have tried to attend the League of Cities, the workshops for the first and the second workshops for newly elected officials, but unfortunately they always occur during my teaching times or during a time when I'm at a conference, which is a professional obligation.
Okay.
So I've tried to do that, just so you know.
All right.
Mayor,
Yes.
would you allow Maria to answer Commissioner Anderson's question since we have that information with us tonight? That will save us some time.
Thank you. We pulled the backup information from last year's request. Mayor Jacobs presented Manager Garcia with an invoice. The class tuition was $1,500. Mayor Jacobs had paid $500, leaving a balance of $1,000. Manager Garcia authorized payment from the village of $615. That was six Miami-Dade County League of City meetings, times 40 is 240, plus the Florida League of Cities amount that Commissioner Ross was explaining, $125 times 3, $375. So 240 plus the 375 was the $615 that the village paid towards Mayor Jacobs' tuition.
And this commission at that time didn't know about this.
Correct, it did not
I'm not, this is not a reflection on the staff at all.
We understand.
And what I'd like to make sure is in the future, what can we have in place so when these requests come forward, just like the request from Commissioner Watts, rightly so, it came in front of the commission, and I commend that's the way it should go.
And that's what happened. Commissioner Watts came to me and I asked her to put it on the agenda and said I would not authorize it without direction from the commission.
I'd just like to make sure we have something in writing, you know, procedure or whatever. But because, you know, I'd like for you to stay here forever, but we know that's not going to happen, so whomever comes behind you, at least this is the policy.
Okay. All right, let's move on to 12E. It's a discussion regarding changes to the Land Development Code.
Evening again. On July 9th, 2013, the Village of Biscayne Park approved Code Ordinance 2013-06, describing the conditions for the storage of watercraft, recreation vehicles, commercial vehicles, and trailers in the village. Chapter 7 of the Land Development Code, which discusses recreation and open space, have been found to be unenforceable concerning boat registrations in certain cases. Section 7.2.1I, second sentence states, all watercraft and trailer registrations where required by state statute shall be kept current and a copy of the registration provided to the village within 30 days of the enactment of this code. This specific sentence, where required by state statute, well, first, state statute does not require a current registration. So this sentence is in conflict with the actual state statute. Second, the code enforcement officer has not been able to enforce this section of the code due to the Florida statute. And this has been brought up. What's been reviewed by the Code Review Board, and their recommendation they voted on was to remove the words where required by state statute. In further discussion with our attorney, he approved of this and also had some further language that he recommends adding to this specific chapter.
Thanks,
And
Ken.
I'll direct to our city attorney.
Thanks, Candida. For those of you that were on the commission, you'll probably remember this ordinance very well. It was a 3-2 vote, and a lot of things were added, and we were probably trying to build a horse, and we built a camel. I think I agree with the recommendation from the board. I agree with what Candido is stating, but I think we also should look at it from a little bit of a bigger picture and not just take that language out, but talk about what we're doing and get the legislative intent, because if you remember, there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of communities that don't allow boats whatsoever. So one of the issues with having a registration is to make sure that it's either the owner or the tenant is actually the owner of the boat. But also, I think part of the legislative intent that we really should, if we do amend this ordinance, we'll put in there, is all the conversation from all the commissioners was Biscayne Park, South Florida, close to the water. And we don't want to prohibit people from having this amenity of having a boat and using their boat. But when it was added at the request, when we were trying to get, when this commission was trying to get the approval, it was added, we're required by state statute. Well, what the state law does say that if you haven't used it in the waters in the state of Florida for over a year, that's when you don't need to register it. But I don't think the point of allowing someone to have a boat, as it was discussed, and some of you are on the dais, and correct me if I'm wrong, is so people can just store a piece of equipment. It's for the boat to actually serve as a boat. And so I think if we look at it also from that point of view, we can, because cities can clearly not allow anywhere in your city, there's cities that do that. That's not what this community wants, and that's more than fair. But I think what we should say is that you cannot have a boat unless it's registered, because if you're not having a registered boat, what you're stating under state law is that I haven't used or intend to use that boat as a boat for a year or more. And now it's no longer acting as a boat or an amenity for that property. And so when we had this conversation, Candido and I, and it's also then you're weighing the balance between your neighbors that may or may not like the boat in the side yard or not. And so that's how we get to require that. We're not requiring that you have a registration, but we are saying if you want to have your boat, it has to serve as a boat, and under Florida law, it does need to be registered. So I hope that makes some sense to you.
Yes.
Okay. And we would bring it back. We
As an
certainly would take
ordinance?
that language out, but we would, and I don't want to get to language now because we would talk, but we would bring it back with some change language generally.
In what sense are we not requiring people to have a registration?
Well, when it was passed, it was requested to insert, you only need to register if required by state law. And what the state law says is if you haven't used it for a year, you don't need to have it registered. So when they're citing or they're saying you need to have it registered, I'm not using my boat.
So we're proposing to be more restrictive than the state on this point.
Well, we're actually enforcing under Home Rule 166 whether or not you can have a boat in a yard. While the state's simply enforcing it if you're going to use it. And we're saying if you're not using something called a boat for a year or 2 years, it's no longer servicing you as an amenity. It's actually, you're just putting it there to store an object.
Or as one of our neighbors said, as a work of art.
All right, so, I think,
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. The presumption when we were trying to pass this, and it was trying to patch things together to make it workable for everyone on the commission, the presumption was that it was a watercraft that was going to be in use, not just dry storage of a perhaps derelict boat. So I think we do need to change the language. I would use a stronger must be kept current instead of shall be kept current. But I also want to be careful that we're not requiring registration for small crafts and kayaks that would not ordinarily need a registration.
Correct. Those are exempt in that ordinance.
Right, I was going to say.
Correct.
Okay.
So if there's consensus, we'll be bringing this back for a first reading.
Yes. Okay. Now, if I recall, in this ordinance, a copy of this registration needs to be presented to the city.
That's correct.
And I don't recall that yearly. I want to make sure that, yearly it's presented to the city.
Sure, we'll make sure that's in there.
Because each time, somebody, because what will happen is people register the boat.
No, we
They end up
say
selling the
kept
boat.
current in
and
there
we
right
just-
now, was that intent, but we can look and make sure that's.
Now, how does that, because I know most of these things we try to follow along with motorhomes and travel trailers and our commercial trucks. Does this follow along with that?
Yeah, we have recreational vehicles and trailers.
Right,
that follow
so
that.
we require the same thing on all of those.
Yeah, we're gonna take a look at the entire statute and see, now that it's starting to, there's been some cases, to make sure.
Right.
What other issues, what others.
So the language is going to be drafted to prevent people from simply storing trailers or boats that are no longer in use.
Right, if you have
Or it doesn't
long-term
belong to them.
storage on a
Right.
vehicle
Okay.
that you're not using,
Right.
there's places for that shouldn't, as I understand the commission, be your side yard.
Okay, this will include then vans and,
No, commercial.
just
commercial
recreation vehicles?
Right.
Because we grandfathered, we allowed to be grandfathered in a couple of box trucks.
Yeah, I know,
And
but.
just to make sure that those are.
This is for
Just-
boat vessels primarily.
Just
correct?
for
Yeah.
boat vessels, okay. I think though that, I'm just
And
thinking of the
also-
one woman who spoke out at one of these meetings when we were deliberating, who talked about the fact that she only could afford to take the boat out only once a year.
As long
or
as they
something.
have as long as
As they
it's,
keep paying for the renewal.
as long as the boat has a current registration, they never have to take it out.
But if you're taking out once a year, if that's the example, you have to have
Yeah.
registration anyway, or you're in violation of state law.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And also the registration acts to identify who the property owner is. Our code does specifically state that the property owner or the occupant, leasee, are the only ones permitted to have a boat. So the only way identifying who the property owner is through the current registration.
And is the current registration required to be what's implied here on the boat?
Yes, correct.
Okay, but then you say that the name can be blocked off or something?
No, they supply, they supply the village a copy.
A copy of it, so that doesn't have
The
to be
numbers-
visible on the boat itself?
No.
Okay.
Just identification numbers are in the actual boat.
Okay, there was just something confusing in this last sentence. Okay.
All right, anything else, Mr. City Attorney?
That's it, I have direction, thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, moving on, 12F. That's my item. The purpose of this is just to really get the ball rolling with respect to building community spirit, community pride in the village, start to create, not that we don't have an identity, but to improve that, not only inside the village, but to people outside the village. And so one thing that I came up with was sort of coming up with these Euro magnets that we can start distributing or selling. And it's not necessarily a money maker, it's just, again, to build pride in the community. And we could expand upon this and grow it to different things, maybe other merchandise. But I thought this was an interesting idea. And I just came up with B Park. I know that some people have said BP might not be the best. So, I'm open to discussion.
How about VBP?
Go ahead.
VBP.
Oh, that's another one, sure.
Go
ahead.
I was going to say, I'd like to have the name, because if somebody doesn't live here, a lot of those other, like B Park or just abbreviation is like, okay, well, that must be some condo or something.
Yeah, I mean,
but I like the one that you have. In other words, if you have the name Biscayne Park.
Right.
I have a couple comments, and I'd like to ask our new police chief his opinion on this, because I brought this up as an idea like twice in the last 2 years. And the kibosh was put on it, actually by the former police chief, Ray Tiziano, who said that he thought that if you're implying that these should be on people's cars. Is that your thought?
Yeah.
Okay. And his attitude was that anything that gives us someone who sees us the knowledge of where you live, that was a bad idea, and that it would hurt security, and people could follow you home, or they'd know you're in Biscayne Park and you have a nice car, or some such thing like this. I didn't necessarily agree with him, but that's what he said strongly. But I talked, when I was talking with the village manager, I think, of City of Lauderhill by the Lakes, or one of these other cities I was calling about, and it seems that they have it, and they had no problem with the police having being a danger thing. So I like it. My just other suggestion is that when I looked at that, I thought, why not just have the log cabin logo on it without anything else? And then people who knew the log cabin would know you're from Biscayne Park, but others wouldn't. Or just put BP, since we are having the log restored and all, an icon or an image, maybe a simplified image of the log cabin.
Chief, did you want to address?
So I wanted to ask him, I mentioned before during the
Okay,
break
great.
that I thought I'd like his opinion.
First public appearance.
I warned him so he wouldn't be put on the spot.
I don't think having the sticker presents a danger to the resident that has it, but I do think all the things that are involved, really the police department should have an opportunity to do a little bit of research and report back to the village manager on it with a more definitive opinion based on actual experiences of other agencies, problems that they've observed, successes they've had, failures. You're asking for an opinion. I'd rather come back to you with actual experiences of other agencies and report that to the village manager.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Dave, we already have the front license tag, the plastic tag that's a Biscayne Park tag. You would see around sometimes these things that'll say KB for Key Biscayne,
right,
and
yep.
KW for Key West.
Yep, yep.
I like the idea of at least trying to brand us, and to come up with any thoughts. So, as we're trying to dice this and slice it, it isn't a bad idea. It's just like, this is one of the ideas.
Yeah, it's just to start the...
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, one other thought, though. I don't know whether there came of your call and a couple of newsletters ago of people to send in names, sort of tag words or logos or ideas. If any of those were interesting, if you could have, in lieu of the log cabin image, you could put Biscayne Park and then whatever it is, a better place to be, or whatever your sort of tagline is, something like that.
I like the idea of it. I prefer the lower of the two presented there. And, you know, of course, it would be a voluntary thing. It's not like we're going to require people to have them, but I certainly would welcome the chief's input after he's had an opportunity to take a look at it. I also brought along with me something else to consider. These are magnets. We have a resident who makes these magnets. I'll pass them down for you to look at. I don't know if you've seen them. She was here at a trade fair that we had for the 80th anniversary, and that's another way of branding ourselves, which we could sell these. They're like refrigerator magnets, really, and not only encourage like pride in being a resident of the Village of Biscayne Park, but also make a little bit of money that we could then, you know, turn around and have a community event with. So all of those things, I think, are positive things, and focusing it around the log cabin, since that's going to be our next project, is a good idea.
What these are photos. It looks like they're regular photos, but they happen to have magnetic properties on the back. And so these happen to be two photos in Biscayne Park.
Yeah. They wouldn't be good at seen as at a distance in a car, but I think they're cute.
No, these aren't for the car.
Yeah, no.
All right,
I
so
like the idea.
Great idea. I like
okay,
it.
yeah, and the gentleman that gave a price on these is the same person that does the e-grid, and I think he does all the merchandise for Miami Shores, the chamber. So.
Oh, you know what? If we were to ever use these ones with the pictures of the log cabin and all, if room could be placed on the bottom, just to put the 2 phone numbers of Biscayne Park, or Biscayne Park, and the dial whatever for police, 911 or something, so that when they, if you had that on a refrigerator, it could come in handy.
Okay, all right, so we'll bring it back with the chief. We'll go from there.
This as a discussion item?
Yeah.
I looked at the budget, and just for this fiscal year, I know we're towards the end. There is some money left under promotional events in the commission's budget.
Okay.
We generally use it for bereavements, employee celebrations, those type of things. You have about $2,300.
Okay. I mean, the concept is for it to either be a wash or to make some money.
Right. We would have to lay out money though initially.
Right. Okay, so we'll bring it back. All right, let's go to request for placement of items on the next meeting agenda. Anyone?
I was talking about this emo conference I went to, and I really was very impressed. I think it's the kind of thing we might want to consider asking all Biscayne Park commissioners to attend early in their terms from now on.
And is it just once a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they do it every year, but it's once, but they have it 3 different places around the state. The closest one, the one I attended, was in Delray Beach, and the other 2 were Orlando and someplace further away.
Okay.
I also wanted us at some point to consider whether we would like to make our own law against people using cell phones while they're driving unless they have a hands-free.
That we're preempted by the state.
What does the state say that preempts that?
316 is all your traffic regulations, and only the state can enforce and write those laws.
So we can't be more restrictive than the state there?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything
Take
else?
that off then.
Okay. Anything, Commissioner Ross? Anything else?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I was thinking that maybe we should discuss what's going to happen with the log cabin and the building of a new police department and administrative building, that perhaps maybe a committee or some other members of the community might want to be involved in a workshop or a charrette, sort of ideas about what we would want in these buildings.
Yeah, that's going to come up on the village manager. She's going to update us next.
Okay, great.
All right, let's go to village manager reports.
The first item is actually in your backup under 14A. We received this invite to participate in Citizens Crime Watch in Miami-Dade County's 39th year annual award ceremony.
there's a couple ways you can participate as a municipality. That includes page 2 of the backup, sponsorship levels, or taking out an ad in the newsletter. Considering that we have a very active Crime Watch organization here in the village, I thought it might be prudent to at the very least do an ad, and there's different options at the funding level there of how to fund that. And then there's the opportunity for individuals to attend the award ceremony, either at $50 per person or for the organization $500 per table. Again, we do have an active Crime Watch, so it might be something that we would want to have representation at, either through attendance or in their program that evening. I did look at the budget, and under the police department, let me get to the right page here. Sorry, I had my page and then I flipped it right past it. Thank you. We have a line item for education and training. That's generally where meetings and those type of things come out, and there's about $1,200 available in that line item.
Would going to a dinner qualify as education?
Can I comment?
Generally, that's a broad term, education and training, and it covers meetings and those type of events as well.
I think we should at least have our chair, which is extremely active and doing a great job. But at least have our chair go.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to do an advertisement. I don't know that what we would really gain from that. And if we continue on with the concept of counting every penny, I think that's should be out of the question. But and if Chuck, if you want to attend, it looks like it's $50 per person to attend. So I think if anyone wants to attend, it's not an exorbitant amount of money that they couldn't come up with it themselves.
Yeah, no, I wanted to, if I can make a comment about this. See, 10, 11, 12, 13, this will be my 5th one that we're going to be attending. If I'm proposing on nominating somebody as a crime watcher, sometimes I get nominated, and I might nominate one of the police officers. So normally it would be more productive to put the funds towards, if you're gonna put some funds forward towards the table, because we would be attending the event than an advertisement. That's what I would suggest.
The table is $500.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say, I'm not suggesting we buy a whole table. I'm just saying if you want to donate devote some money to this, that's fine. Then I would suggest that, what's the deadline on that? Is it August?
We have a little time, that's why we brought it forward
So
early.
if you, that's where I would put the money, because we might want to have, I think I'd like the chief to go, and he might want to bring a couple of his officers, and I would like the village to pay for their attendance. And then normally Rox and I pay for ourselves. Sometimes we fill a whole table, sometimes we don't. Maybe we could discuss it further, you and I, Heidi.
Well, I'm a firm believer, I think, being the chair of Crime Watch and what you've been doing, I don't think you should be paying for yourself. I think the city should pay for your ticket.
If I get nominated, they pay for me, actually. Because they have awards. And if you get, last year we had an Officer of the Year. We have a Crime Watcher of the Year. We don't have a Youth Crime Watch. We have Chairperson of the Year, which would be me if I got nominated. And those people actually, the organization pays for. So then the payment would be for our chief and other people to accompany. So that's what I would suggest.
Any other comments?
I'd just like to say that it's a very good tool for the police and for the community. Citizens Crime Watch, not only do they provide information, literature in all languages, but they'll even also come out and give instruction if we ask them to or we need them to. In the first year that I was elected, I used the balance of my campaign monies to buy the table, and so we just bought the table and invited I think most of the police staff to attend. In other years, we've kicked in ourselves, and I think the village maybe had paid for some staff We've even contributed to pay for some staff to participate. So whatever the village is willing to put in for the support staff, and the commissioners can pay for themselves if they want to attend.
Yeah, I mean, I just think in the end, it's a dinner, you know, I just don't know what. In a perfect world, we would get a table, we would have staff attend, police officers, commissioners, but we're not there yet. I just think we really have to change that mentality. And so I think if anyone wants to attend, they pay their own way. If the police officers think that it's a benefit, that they'll gain something from it, then maybe we pay for them.
I think it's a networking opportunity for the village and for the village to kind of, again, continue those positive steps as far as our police chief is concerned.
I agree with that, because I think, especially there's some awards, and we have a very strong crime watch organization here compared to a lot of other municipalities. I think we should honor them in our police department and pay for some of them to go.
We also have the Leo Awards, right? Is that yearly?
I mean, I'm not advocating buying a table.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
we can say like a half a table, that'd be $250 or whatever we want to come up with.
My point on this item also is just to bring it to your attention that it's, with some new commissioners on the commission, that it's just another one of those annual events that takes place.
Because I'm reading here, it needs to be returned Friday, September 12th.
Yeah.
So,
I have
All
a
right,
query. Do we have, I think it would be really important for the police chief to go, since he's new in the area, new to the area. Is there a separate budget for the police chief for events such as this, or?
It's from that same line item.
It's from that same money?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, why don't we leave it up to staff to sort of manage the $50?
And if the commissioners want to go, we can coordinate with them
Yes.
privately.
Okay, update from Biscayne Park Foundation.
Yes, I attended the foundation meeting on June 9th, and at the meeting, there were some questions raised about exactly what is the relationship between the commission and the foundation, and how would the communication take place from the foundation back to the commission and vice versa. So I offered to kind of bring this topic up for discussion here at the commission. I don't know if you would want to appoint me, not officially appoint me, but have me attend those meetings and bring that communication back and forth from the meeting to the commission to keep you informed of their doings. For example, at the meeting, there was a lot of talk about doing a green market and adding crafts into that as well. They would need to eventually come to some kind of agreement for the use of village property for these events. So I think it's important that you have a sense of what was taking place at the meetings. We could do this, not necessarily wait until the next commission meeting to do it, because their meetings are usually right after the commission meeting, so it's almost a month later. But just like I have staff do after P&Z or code compliance, I can just send an update out to the commission and just keep you abreast of the going on. So I didn't know if you wanted to appoint a member of the commission to be that person. Just looking for some direction here.
I'm comfortable with you or someone that you want to appoint.
Aren't there minutes also attached with the commission, with the different committee minutes, so that they come into our packet every month?
I think they are, but I think they're looking for some more of a liaison relationship, a closer relationship between the commission and the foundation.
Sure.
Yeah, that question came from me actually, because I wasn't sure how we should engage with the city, like on these events. We are gonna make the farmers market, right? And we are looking to have once every week for maybe for 6 months in a row during when it's not the rainy season. But then the city, we have to use the property of the city, right? Maybe we have to use the insurance, liability insurance from the city. Maybe we need advice from the attorneys. I don't know what we are gonna need actually to do it, licensing, all the needs that the foundation will have to organize these events. So we are not sure if we have to ask directly the management of the city and engage management directly with the foundation, or we have to go through the commission if we need something directly from the city. We cannot ask the manager directly because we are not officially, I don't know what we are actually in the city.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
And this happens in all cities at some point, especially with the way the foundation was created. And we had this in a lot of cities. And in fact, the seminal opinion from the Attorney General Office, I think it was 2007-01, it's the very first opinion of the year, is addressing the Biscayne Park Foundation. We asked this question because the question was originally whether the foundation is under the Sunshine Law. And the Attorney General walked through and said it is because it is so attached to the village. It was created by the village. The original, and Bob, you know this, the original members of the foundation was the commission. It was set up to become that way, and then it was, we'll take people from outside who may be better apt and have more time to go ahead and try to do the fundraising. So it's a hybrid, really. You are a separate 501c3, absolutely, but you yet are considered part of the village of Biscayne Park. And it's a difficult relationship, and North Miami with their art. And Coral Springs has the same issue, and they want to be independent and not independent at the same time. Because you don't have your own attorney, for example, and you want to enter into contracts, and the contracts are going to be on our property, and you want to use the insurance. So, summing it up, I think it'd be very appropriate for the manager to be that liaison. We do need to have a liaison, and we need to remember why you are separate.
Yeah.
We still need to assist you, which raises other issues, even some attorney issues with representing if there was ever to be a conflict, for example. But certainly something like the farmer's market, insurance, Maria can look at it, and availability, the staff here can look at it, and we can look at the legal issues. So there needs to be probably closer than it is. I'm glad you raised it, and I'm glad the manager's volunteering.
Commissioner Watts?
I think it's a great idea to have a liaison, but I wouldn't want to burden our village manager with attending to those meetings every month. Perhaps at various times another member of the staff could do that and report back.
Yeah, she can manage it. I think she can manage herself.
Yeah.
I think having something like the farmer's market is a great idea. Is this something that could be a city-sponsored event put on by the foundation?
Well, at some level, yeah, it's at least a partnership.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So by having that, it's a city, we're sponsoring it, the city's sponsoring it, but it's being run by the foundation?
Correct. We would certainly, like I said, sponsor, I'm not exactly sure. We're probably saying the same thing. We're partnering with them. As a result, the League of Cities insurance would apply. We would definitely look at that. And as a result, we'd be looking at the contract for you. Yeah.
Just to try to make it, a little bit
Yeah,
cleaner.
I agree.
And then, the staff is working with the foundation.
Yeah.
But we still would need to have the commission's approval to do it.
Absolutely. It's on our property.
Right.
So that just brings to mind also that when we do have events like that and vendors come in, we generally require that they put us on their insurance.
Absolutely. And we should.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I think the consensus is to appoint the village manager.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay, great. All right.
So log cabin restoration update. We received $1 million from the state. So I got the check right here.
The question is the check in the bank.
Not yet. I need that's why Officer Harrison's here to escort me to the bank with that check. So the funds will be handled through the Department of Economic Opportunity. There's a division of that department called Community Housing, and that's who will handle our funds. I just started communicating. I was contacted by the department to let me know that they would be handling the funds, and we've just started our communications. I still do not have much information. I do not know what our timeline is from the state's perspective of how long we have the funds. I've heard a year, I've heard 18 months. I do not know that, and nor have I seen any kind of agreement to the use of the funds yet. With that being said, the department will want from the village within the next week or two a scope of work and a timeline of how long it will take to complete the project. I went through some files that Commissioner Anderson provided me when the village was considering the new village hall in conjunction with the Computer Learning Center. The plans are pretty much all done. I also met with resident Gary Kuhl yesterday because he was chairman of that committee to kind of get his insight of how they got to that point. And we both agreed that it would be a great idea to reach out to that architectural firm. So first thing this morning I did, and they closed up shop in 2010. So no pun intended, it's almost back to the drawing board with that. So I looked at the RFP that was done by staff sometime in the summer of 2013 prior to my arrival, when they did an RFQ for architects, specifically really looking at historic architects when it was just about the restoration of the log cabin. Some of the firms I'm familiar with, others I'm not, but most of them have a historic focus to them, or they do very large-scale projects. They do projects in the 16 million, the 12 million, the 10 million range. So I had some concerns about that. So I also started to look around to see who was doing other work, small-scale work, who's doing community centers, those type of buildings, because while we are building a city hall, we are not building something that's comparable to any city hall you've probably seen built in the region in the last 5 to 7 years. It's not a multiple-story building. It is not going to have the level of staff that most cities have. We still have a small level of staff that would be functioning out of Village Hall. So I did reach out to one firm whose work I was familiar with, and I have not heard back from them. This was just earlier today, but it's something that they're thinking about. And what I posed to them was a community building that they might have already done somewhere else. So the general shell and the architecture is done, and we just need to fit our interior layout, which is very simple for the new Village Hall, into that design. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. But whatever we do, we need to be done with our CDs, or our construction documents as we call them, within 60, 90 days. And that's really pushing it, because we need to be breaking ground as soon as possible. Because the way the work is going to need to take place is we're going to have to build the new building, the annex building first, in order to get us out of Village Hall so that we could do the restoration of the log cabin. And we're going to be on this state timeline for the use of the funds. So while CDs are being finalized, we are going to need to be thinking about going out to bid for contractors. We're going to have to just keep moving forward and at a swift pace. Regarding public input, I agree that there's definitely a need for public input, and what I would like to propose is that, because staff has the unique perspective of what their needs are for the interior functioning of the annex building, that is all done one-on-one with the architectural firm. But when it comes to the exterior of the building, that we hold a public workshop or a charrette, and we share the exterior of the building with the public, and we get feedback and adjust the design if possible based on the feedback that we receive, and then continue moving forward. I think that this, based on the files that I received, again, from Commissioner Anderson, what a wealth of information. I've been going through every It's all the emails from the committees, correspondence with the architectural firms, correspondence with staff between the committee. A lot of that footwork has been done already through a committee of the residents, and we're just getting it to the point where we're going to finalize the design pretty much based on that previous design as far as the interior layout goes, and then get right to construction as quickly as possible. Unlike the past, and it's definitely no judgment on my part of what happened, but we can't risk losing this money, and we have to, we're on a state deadline here, and we have to keep moving forward. So that's my report. I'll be happy to include, as I get more information. As you can see, this is a day-to-day game changer. At 6 o'clock last night, 6:30 last night, I went home thinking that I had an architectural firm and construction documents in hand. 9:45 this morning, I finally gave in and convinced myself they really were out of business and out of state. So this changes. So if I can update you through like weekly update.
Okay, that's great.
You know, between our meetings.
Are you looking at design build firms? Because I think that, you know, I think the architecture is somewhat simple to do, and I think a design build firm is, number one, less expensive, I think, and then it might be quicker to get some firm like that on board.
There's definitely merits to design build. It's something I'm considering, especially with this new information this morning.
Right.
A recent city hall that I worked in was design build, and there were many issues with the building there, and sometimes you just have the checks and balances issues sometimes with these larger buildings. It's my only concern, but it's not out of the question. It's just I'm not sure about it.
Basically, the size of the building that we're talking about is a house.
Correct.
So we're not talking about, you know, something that's really out of scale. The other thing that I would request you to be looking at, while you're looking at the shape of the building, you know, all of that, also to location.
Correct.
Because so this way you can be presenting us beside, you know, or if we happen to have a charrette, whatever it may be, you're playing, you got both of them. And of course you're taking into where septic tank and everything else for parking and stuff like that, because that was all part of that, you know, as you're reading through it, all of that was being considered of geographically why that building was put in that certain location.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I had always thought that it should go parallel to 6th Avenue, and then it became clear in going through the notes why it was actually perpendicular because of the drain field and those type of things.
Right.
But we will definitely, once we have an understanding of how we're proceeding with the design, we will definitely.
Because the reason was
location.
just like what you're saying.
Yeah.
So the rest of the property is not being blocked for some future use.
Correct.
Commissioner Watts?
Yeah. Just a couple of questions. I'd like some consideration, just if you could tell me, are we certain what the building is going, the use of the building will be? I mean, before we received the grant, there was the thought that the police department would move over to Public Works. I don't think that's the best solution. I would bless the location, but if that's the case, then that would change what was the original intent of the village administration building, the administration and police department. What was your thought on that? And if not, if we don't use Public Works building for a police department, what would it be used? Would some staff move over to there? So I'd like an overall picture of what's going to happen with all of our facilities.
Sure. We're proceeding with the understanding that the police are moving to 109th to the Public Works structure, and that this would be just a modest for the administrative function, the day-to-day function, and the operations.
In the grant that we received, did it not specify also police department?
Well, it's not a grant, it's an appropriation, and that's what I'm waiting, again, for those final discussions about the scope of work with the state. That's what we're presenting to them. If they come back with, you know, something else, we'll have to reconsider that. But from a cost savings, when you look at some of the previous designs, not necessarily the computer learning center and the village hall design, but there were other designs over the years, and the police department doubles that square footage, and now you're no longer building a simple single family home. you're building a much larger public building, which the costs really escalate.
Okay, so then were you still planning to include a computer center?
No.
Okay. I just think that we should reconsider the placement of the police department in the Public Works building. I think that having the police department just so close to where all the residents live is quite different from having it facing 6th Avenue and, Griffin. But that's just my thought.
I'll take direction from the commission on that.
And also, I'm confused. Don't we have to, can we have an RFP or some call for proposals for an architect or construction firm rather than just deciding on one?
Our purchasing policy allows us to, professional services do not need to go out for RFP. We were looking at doing a letter of intent. It's just that slows us down. There's another 2 months right there, so that's my concern. So I'm looking at all different swim lanes here, and I mean that swim lane adds a couple more months to it to do it.
Well, I think if we do the streamlined way, then we really do need, I think, all of the architects and people who are really involved with the village to weigh in on designs for the building, rather than just administration and staff. I think that having an architect weighing in would be important.
One of the things I learned in the notes that I received before, and I think that kind of led to some of the losing of the money, was that the committee wasn't always able to meet. There wasn't a quorum, so they weren't able to respond back in a timely manner to the architects and those type of things. I would rather the opportunity to kind of create an informal working group as opposed to a committee of the commission. Those who have the time and are interested in participating, I can work with. I can stay late and we can look over plans and take feedback that way. But I think if we formalize the committee, we might run into those timeline issues again.
On the issue of the location of the police department, I would obviously we can give our input, but I think it's important to hear from the chief and the police force as to whether there are issues relocating there or whether it's preferable to stay closer to Village Hall.
I agree that it's a great value to get an opinion from our police chief, but he just arrived here. So I think we need him, give him a little time to get his feet under him and understand the dynamic of the city and how things operate, where the patrols are, where are the areas that need focus. And I'm sure that he's going to get to that point in a very short time. I appreciate the update and agree with your assessment that staff is the best equipped to decide the design needs of their working space. I also think it's a great opportunity to have that charrette or some kind of community input once there's something to present, and then adjustments could be made based on that feedback from the community. It is important that we move fast because look how much time has already, evaporated. So this is a once in a century opportunity, and we're not going to see this again in our lifetime or maybe the next generation's lifetime. So we certainly want to be able to take advantage of the funds and bring something of great benefit to our community.
Do we know?
And one of the reasons that you were selected to be our village manager is because of your background and experience in this area. So I trust that experience and that talent that you bring. Thank you.
Do we know whether the clock, and is there a clock, is it 18 months, but, or we don't know yet?
I don't know yet.
Okay, and we don't know.
That stresses me out, that question.
And we don't know whether the clock has started ticking or whether it ticks from the receipt of the agreement.
Correct. Well, we do know that the state budget these funds went into effect today, July 1st.
Okay.
But what does the department hold us to? I do not have the answer.
And you're
to
speaking
that
with
question.
them tomorrow, I believe, right?
We've been speaking almost every day. I think today's the first day I haven't
But
received
is
a call.
can you get that question answered?
That question's out there already from me.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
They're working on the answer. They have questions for me and I have questions for them, and we both need our questions answered before we can answer each other's questions. We're working on it.
Commission.
Okay.
And I'm very well aware the time is of the essence, as the commissioner had oversaw us losing hundreds of thousands of dollars because we kept procrastinating and not answering the questions quick enough at the Computer Learning Center. The City Hall part of the Computer Learning Center, because of the funds available, was not big enough for the police department. It was strictly only for administrative services. What we're looking at now is the same situation. There's not enough money for a building to house administrative services in the police department. I don't see that we have a choice except for our police department either stays in the trailer and we spend that monthly amount that we're doing now, or move over to a secure building that is reasonably modern. That doesn't preclude sometime in the future, if more monies become available, of putting an addition onto wherever the city hall is going to be. But I think for now, there is no choice. We don't have a choice.
Okay.
We cannot house out of this money the police department and the municipal part of our building.
I agree. That's fine.
And
Okay.
just not to make the expectations too high for Chief McKenna, but he's already, last week we walked through the Public Works facility together. He's already taken the plans from that facility and is looking at them. So he understands also time is of the essence from the police department side, and because of budgeting for next year, he's been instructed also to kind of keep any changes that need to take place there to the minimum, but we're going to, be prepared for that.
Right, because that is another expense, because our public works is still going to be working out of a piece of that building.
The yard.
So, well, they're going to need to have some kind of an office and restrooms.
Showers.
Showers. I mean, there's going to be, it's going to have to be divided some way.
We can talk later about that, but
Yeah.
basically it's going to be a switch of the office space from where the police clerk is now, for right now.
Right, I'm not,
Yeah.
well, but I mean, it's going to have to be something.
Right, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy to sit down with you.
Commissioner Jones,
and
anything?
give you our
No, just to
penciled
point
game
out that
plan.
while we're
Because we're gonna
thinking
need
about
showers.
this,
Yeah.
there's still
Right.
active leaks in the log cabin when it rains. So we want to really kind of
Yeah,
move this
no, without a
along.
doubt. Okay, personnel.
And just on one, Commissioner Jonas's comment reminded me, we received the historic building assessment report from our historic architect this week, and we're transmitting that up to the state, and we should get any comments back from them. The entire project needs to be closed out from their perspective July 17th, so we're right on track
That's on the
with
grant.
And we'll be getting a copy of that.
Correct, and I plan to have Mr. Heisenbottle, I believe, at the August meeting. Right, you said August? I think August. I think August meeting. Okay.
Okay. Kurt?
We can do that at-
Okay, personnel changes.
As I've shared with the commission, Mr. Sosa Cruz has accepted a position with a neighboring municipality, and his last day in the office will be July 10th. So I wanted to formally, publicly acknowledge his time here with the village on a personal level. The transition into my position could not have taken place without his institutional knowledge and his guidance and a lot of feedback and information from him. So I'm definitely indebted to him, and we wish him well.
A lot of things could not have taken place without him.
You're absolutely right. So we wish him well as he takes those next steps in his career. I just also want to notify the commission that moving forward, my intention is to underfill the current existing position, and then at the budget time bring it forward as a reclassification of the position. I'm looking at creating, as Mr. Sosa Cruz was the assistant to the village manager and the public services director, changing the position to a public services coordinator position. The person would be the interface between all of the departments and residents when there might be an issue or a complaint, to help the residents navigate through our system and keep things moving along, especially specific to residents' concerns, contractors' concerns, those who do business in the village, be it a resident, property owner, or a contractor. And also, the position would also be responsible for the grants. It's not just this appropriation for the log cabin that we have in this upcoming year. We also have the urban forestry grant that we use for tree trimming. We have the FDOT grant that we use for improvements to 6th Avenue. We have the Community Development Block Grant that Commissioner Hayman set aside for us. We are going after cultural council events. Issa and I have been working on that this week. So we have a lot of grants management, and as much fun as it is to get these grants, there's so much paperwork involved in it. So this position would also have a large responsibility as the person who's responsible for the reporting and the tracking of these grant items as well. So I just wanted to share with the commission my intent with this position, and assure you my intent is also to underfill it from a budgetary standpoint.
So
Can we?
what I understand is so that the position will not be filled until we get into the middle of budgeting, so we completely understand.
No, the position will be filled sooner.
Can we put this as a discussion item for the next commission meeting
Yes.
before you fill it?
Yeah.
The next commission meeting on July 17th.
Or the regular commission meeting, so that'd be July, it'd be August.
Well, I mean, I don't mind if it's July 17th. As long as I just want to have the discussion, I think, in more detail.
Yes.
So July 17th is fine.
Okay. What would you like to see for the discussion?
I think an expansion on what you just described, you know, what you envision the person doing, and let us discuss it.
Okay, we have a job description that I can provide with the
Right.
commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you started advertising yet?
No, our plan was to tomorrow, but I'm not going to do that. I can't stress the importance of having this position filled, though. I cannot, I mean, that's why I'd like to do it on July 17th.
Yeah, July 17th is fine.
Go on.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to say one thing that it's been suggested to me, and I'm just passing it on. All right, I'm just the messenger. That perhaps, and I think you did this in your report of what each division of the administration plans to do in the next year, but it's been suggested to me that perhaps a hold be placed on the hiring of this person. I know that's bad. In order to first assess the positions that everyone holds in the entire village administration to see how, I don't know, responsibilities or something might be divvied up, just to clarify what we really need in this position. That's just something you could think about. I just wanted to say before we leave that with the former manager, it's often been said, and I think by you as well, that each employee in the village of Biscayne Park wears many hats. But Candido, you've worn a plethora of them.
Yes.
You've been a veritable factotum in the best sense of the word. There's nothing attached to it. And personally, as well as in terms of what you've given to the village, I just personally want to thank you for all I've learned and how many times I've argued with you over things. But I've enjoyed it immensely and learned so much from you. And I wish you well and wish you weren't leaving.
Yeah, I'm going to miss you.
I'd like to comment that we have so many things going on right now, so many balls to keep up in the air, and it is so, our current staff is so thinly stretched. For example, I think each one of them go to one of the committee meetings every month and then report on those committee meetings to the commission. We get their emails with the summaries. We know anyone who visits Village Hall for any period of time has an understanding of how thinly stretched our staff is trying to make good service to the village. And I think that the position perhaps, well, first of all, you can't be replaced. There is no other Candido out there that we could hire. But it is important that we have someone who supports the staff in these reporting requirements for the grants, For example, the grant on the trees that we're going to plant on the bridge. I can't tell you how many hours have been involved in creating that, in getting the community input, in working with the committee, and reporting to the state, and that's $5,000 matching grant. I think that if we added up all the hours, that probably our effort is way higher than the $5,000 that we're going to get from the state. So I welcome for the 17th your description of the tasks that need to be accomplished, and underfilling it or hiring someone for a period of time to focus on those tasks. I think that could be a good way to get a value from the person that's hired for it. But going forward, I also think that there's a need to have that support in the village. And Candido, we've butted heads sometimes, disagreed, but talked things through and had an understanding, and I think that we both grew from the experience. You have been an MVP for the village. Wherever there was a need, you brought your talent. If you didn't have the talent, you learned it, and you got it under your belt, and you shared with us that benefit. And I thank you for that. It's been great knowing you, and I hope to continue to know you in your future endeavors. I wish you success.
You know, I don't know that I think it's entirely prudent for us to, what Heidi calls underfill this position, and at the same time create a gap of time that there's nobody in that position. Unless Heidi thinks it's a reasonable thing to do, I'm not sure it doesn't expose us a little too much.
What is it, 2 weeks?
2 weeks until we would then, after that, if...
Then it's a
did we
matter of
advertise?
advertising and interviewing and arranging hiring. I'm just not sure it's the most sensible way to do this.
Well, I mean,
We
I...
did it with
I'm
the
sorry?
village manager. We did it with the village manager.
I was gonna say, this is, you know, we went for
And
quite
it
a
nearly
while
killed
with
our
that.
clerk.
And who's going to step in to this temporarily?
Maria.
Look, I mean, I mean, if you want to advertise, I don't have any problem advertising the position tomorrow. I just want to have a discussion, and so that the public understands clearly what you envision the person doing. And I mean, I'm not at all against hiring someone. I think I agree with Commissioner Ross that it's absolutely necessary. But I think that we should have a discussion so that the public understands exactly what this person is going to do and the real need for this person. But if, you know, advertising tomorrow is fine with me.
That's what I was going to suggest. You can advertise this. Obviously, the manager hires and fires and then explains it to you on the 17th. And if there's an issue, then that can be articulated then.
Particularly because the position has already been budgeted. We've allowed for it in our
Yeah,
budget.
no. Again, I'm not at all against, we need somebody. I'm not at all against that. I just think it's important to have that dialogue in the...
See, and I'm not too sure we need somebody in that particular position.
Well, you can listen to what the manager has to say at the next meeting,
Absolutely.
and we can have a discussion.
Right, because the role of the commission would be whether or not you budget for it.
Right.
Being already budgeted, it can be filled at this time, so just to be clarified.
Two managers think we need somebody in that position. Anna did, and Heidi does.
Anna took her a number of years before she decided that she needed somebody.
Okay.
But I mean, like I said, this is what the discussion will be.
Okay.
I'm just not sure how many experts I want to second guess.
In my mind, it's not second guessing. It's just getting the information out there and having the public hear it. All right. Anything else? Annexation?
Oh, that didn't get on there. Sorry, we have an annexation update. We received correspondence from the county that our application was deficient in 2 items. One item was that we need a letter saying that this does not create an enclave. That's something that we can easily create. The other item is that we need a petition from those electors in the annexation area, 20% of those electors saying they agree for the application to go forward. This was something that was not completed by our planning consultant. There's been discussion with the county that sometimes in the past it's been required at a later stage for some annexation applications, but for whatever reason, the county is requiring us to provide that information right now in order to proceed. So we are speaking to some individuals who might be able to assist us in getting those signatures, but there might be a cost associated with completing that task. I know the mayor's been involved in talking to these individuals as well, and I don't think we've gotten the cost
Yeah, we're
yet.
still waiting on the costs.
Yeah, would we have to put together a package of information for those electors to make the decision?
Probably a public meeting over there would need to be held, not a public meeting in the sense of how we advertise our meetings, but a meeting needs to be held over there in which we would then seek the signatures.
Is there a public building over there that we would use?
We would probably have to work closely with one of the two housing developments.
Now, would that include also, too, the commercial property owners?
No, it's just resident.
Just the residents.
I'm sorry, registered electors.
Okay.
Registered electors.
Because I know that was being, the county was looking at that.
What we can do is I can follow up with the firm and see make sure that they give us an update on cost for the July meeting, because we have to move quickly on this.
Correct.
Okay.
And this again would be a professional services issue, so it doesn't require bidding out or?
Correct.
Okay, great. I think we should move on it as soon as we can.
Okay. Anything else?
No, not from the manager.
Okay, any other last comments from the commission?
Well, we have the attorney's report.
I'm sorry?
Attorney's report.
Attorney's report, nothing?
You're encouraging that, aren't you? Very briefly, you each received an email today. The investigation concerning the police department should be concluded by the end of next week, if not earlier. When that happens, Heidi and I will immediately inform you and provide you documentation, which becomes public record, and we'll move forward from there on that issue. Secondly, I meant to bring up under the ordinance we're bringing back on the vessels. It was suggested by Candido, even though he's leaving, I think he's correct. While we're making these changes, from a practical point of view, we may hold off on the enforcement of it until we get these changes in place so they're completely done in a coherent manner. So if that's okay, that's what we'll tell Candido's replacement.
Okay.
And that's all I have, thanks.
All right, thank you. Announcements?
Oh, yeah, one thing. Just one thing for all of those who are maybe watching and those of you who are here. I mentioned in the last newsletter that anyone who would like to give a donation to a fund for the sanitation employees who will be dismissed from Biscayne Park, if you want to write a check to the foundation, the Biscayne Park Foundation, and just drop it off at Village Hall, or leave it at Village Hall or send it to Village Hall, that the money then will be divided equally among the 4 people who are leaving us. So if anyone wants to donate some money for a going away present, please do so.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Wednesday, July 2nd is the Code Review Board at 7 p.m. Friday, July 4th, all village departments are closed for the 4th of July holiday. Also on Friday, July 4th, we will have our Bark of July event from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. As was approved by the Commission. Please bring your dogs with you on a leash. Monday, July 7th is Planning and Zoning at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, July 8th, Code Compliance Board at 7 p.m. Wednesday, July 9th, Public Art Advisory Board at 6 p.m. Wednesday, July 16th, Parks and Parkway Advisory Board at 6 p.m. Thursday, July 17th is a special commission meeting at 6:30 p.m. Monday, July 21st is Planning and Zoning at 6:30 p.m. And Tuesday, July 22nd is the Recreation Advisory Board at 7 p.m. And our next regular commission meeting is Tuesday, August 5th at 7 p.m.
Make a motion to adjourn?